If Casey would just start the goddamn thing.
I'm doing that now.
Jeez, Matt.
Everybody shut up.
Yes, milady.
Hello and welcome to Vassals of Kingsgrave, DragonCast edition. Today we'll be discussing Game of Thrones, Season 8, Episode 2, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. This episode will obviously be full of spoilers of the Game of Thrones HBO series, and as well as George R. R. Martin's Song of Ice and Fire book series. I'm Casey, Blue-Eyed Queen on the forums, and today I am joined by...
This is Adam, drownedsnow on the forums.
This is Michal, inkasrain on the forums.
This is Katie, Lady Griffin on the forums.
Varley on the forums.
This is Kevin, creepynuncklekevin on the forums. God, I hate my name.
Hey, this is Duncan, also known as Valkyrist on the forums.
Yay!
And Matt number 2, blue armor on the forums.
Yay! We've stolen a kraken, and we have a creepy nuncle now. Why did you choose your name?
So there's one uncle in all of the series, and it's Kevin Lannister, and Cersei calls him Nuncle the whole time. So it was initially Nuncle Kevin, and then I couldn't get it to reset when I forgot the password, so I just added an adjective. And
so you went creepy?
Well, what's the most common adjective with uncle?
I can think of 2 other uncles off the top of my head who are in the series.
Right, isn't Euron a Victorian?
Kevin. I'm sorry, Kevin.
He's not pretty.
Oh, he meant the name. Yeah, he needed the name specifically.
Oh, okay, fine.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I get it, man. I did Varley because it's one of the House Starkmen that get killed in the first book. It worked out well.
Great one.
Yeah.
All right, so we start off with lemon cakes, guys. Let's go in the same order that we introduced ourselves. So, Adam, how about you start it off?
Okay, I don't know, 4.5, 5, I don't know, 5, we'll say 5. I really like this episode. It was probably one of the best character-driven episodes they've had in a while, and I mean, a lot of that is the reunions and have everyone together, and just having these moments that, you kind of always wanted to see, but there was just some great stuff. I mean, Brienne, obviously, minor stuff aside that we'll talk about later, I'm sure.
Yep, definitely. Michal, how about you?
Yeah, probably like a 4.75. It was really good. I'm almost mad at it because it was really good. A couple of different, some things I wasn't super happy about, but overall a very solid and I think a very, in its way, daring episode to just kind of take a step back and not do anything particularly exciting on the drama front. I mean, on the action front, but to focus exclusively on the drama. I think we've all earned that, and I think the characters have earned that. So it was very gratifying.
Yeah, I honestly couldn't say that better. I really love this episode as well. Who's next? Katie.
I'll give it a 5.
Yes.
I think the good parts of this episode elevated it above the dumb stuff in this episode. I enjoyed it thoroughly, and for the first time in many years, I'm excited about seeing Game of Thrones next week. I can't remember the last time I felt excited about an upcoming episode, because now that we've said goodbye, I need to know which of these fuckers are gonna die. So yeah, I enjoyed myself.
All right, Varley.
All right, I really like this episode, but I'm only going to give it a 4.5. everything that has been said already, plus the music was great, the character interactions. I just want to fucking drink next to a fire with everyone in that scene, like forever and ever. I could watch a whole season of them just trading off stories. Yeah, I really liked it, and can't wait to see the battle to come.
I give it a 3. And I'm usually pretty positive on the show, but I kind of felt like
Someone throw a tomato.
Yeah, I know, right? So, like, I kind of felt like this had to happen. Like, everyone had to come together in Winterfell, and there had to be an episode like this in a certain way. Like, I don't really think it was a choice that they made so much as looking at it and saying, well, everyone's together, so either we skip all of the different conflicts or we give them some weight or something before the fight. And I don't know. I thought some of them were really good. Some of them were kind of ham-fisted. And they didn't really resolve anything and just cut away early rather than, continuing what was an interesting conversation. So, I wasn't quite as crazy about it. I think we're gonna step back and be not as excited about this one once the season's over.
All right, we got the full spectrum here.
There was no comment when I was.
Well, for perspective, last week's episode had an average form rating of 3.7, and this was a 4.4. So I'm just saying, I think it was improved.
But you're wrong,
What we're saying
Kevin.
is you're wrong. Yeah.
I'm just saying science.
Yeah.
Actually, I gotta say, I'm more on Kevin's wavelength, I think. I found this episode, I found it really bizarre.
At 2, Duncan?
At 2, yeah. I'm gonna be the contrarian, non-American. But
That's why he's come here.
As people have mentioned, it's like pure fan fiction. And some of it worked, and it was really bizarre. In hindsight, I like the idea of the episode, which is what Sam kind of says about, we're all about our memories. And I like the idea of all these characters kind of going back and being faced with this existential threat, which forces them to reflect on their memories and confront their memories and the things they've done and reconcile with each other. But mostly, I don't know, just the tone felt really off to me. It reminded me a lot of those episodes of a sitcom where they're trying to save money, so they just have an episode where it's like a clip show and it's just all the characters in one room remembering things that have happened on the previous episodes of the series. It just reminded me, this series used to be so much cooler and more vital, and the characters were going through these really meaty things, and now all they've got is their memories. They're not actually really going through anything that intense anymore. It's just memories.
Well,
so
they're all about to die.
it. I know, but I don't know. I felt like
half of them are about to die.
There's so much more they could have done. John is going through this really intense revelation, but we don't see any of that. We're teased this conversation between Tyrion and Bran. We don't see any of that. We had, last episode finished with this really climactic moment where Jaime has to confront Bran, his original sin. It's resolved in 2 minutes. I don't know. It just felt anticlimactic to me. But there are some cool things in it, and I look forward to talking to you guys about it.
Yay! All right, and then the last but not least, we have other Matt. Sorry.
Yeah, it's just use Matt too. But no. And I give it around probably a 4.5. I think it's I would rate it the same way I would the first episode in both its strengths and weaknesses. I can understand the point of perhaps the scores are somewhat inflated, especially for me relative to just how much I disliked last season, and so that I'm probably overlooking some more serious flaws this season, just because the relative quality has improved so much. But yeah, the main annoying thing is that it seems to flip at random between scenes of very compelling and well-written dialogue and then scenes of Tormund's nonsense.
Fuck off.
There's stuff
Whoa.
Really?
No, I'll back Matt up on that.
Yeah, I was going to say, that this
Tormund is gold.
Is the big lady here?
Ugh.
Yeah, it was, it's funny to start with, but this whole conversation is just a room of people that have never met this person before and don't understand his dynamic at all. It's such an awkward scene for me. It was the first time.
That's what makes it fun.
it's the first time that Tormund went from being, very humorous in this little joke of a storyline to like, okay, like, the real person is here, step back, with Jaime appearing. But you combine that with, the two strongest scenes being Sansa and Dany and Jaime and Brienne. And those were just fantastic, even though the Dany and Sansa thing cut off, early for no reason.
Right.
Where it's just like,
which
normal
they
people
keep doing.
Right, yeah, they keep doing that. And like normal people would finish those fucking conversations. Like, it's just ridiculous.
Well, the Maester would know Theon Greyjoy is not important enough to interrupt the Queen. I think.
Right, yeah. And yeah, like just like the death stares like they got like what the two women gave when he came in, like, what the fuck are you doing? But overall, I liked a lot more than I disliked. Even the awkwardness of the Arya Gendry scene, I was still happy it was going on as it was happening, and the Jenny of Oldstones thing at the end was a fucking clincher. Like, that was a great addition.
I've never been more disappointed in a Matt.
You know what? I think I'll take that as more of a compliment than a insult.
Well,
Hey,
look, this episode, it's not a hard home. It's not like the best episode of the series, but I think part of the thing that we're looking at here. Okay, we're not going to go there again.
Is
Right,
awesome.
it's the 20 minutes.
I think we'll live up to
thing
hard
as a
home.
whole. Yeah.
Okay, but part of the reason why I think everyone's just really high on this episode right now is that this is the jumping off point where we're not going to have these opportunities again. I mean, you only have a few episodes left. A lot of people are going to be dying. They have to get this stuff out of the way, and they have to do it in a way that like brings meaning to what these characters have done for 7 seasons. And I think they did a lot of that in this episode. There's bad stuff where like they have the trope of okay, so what about the North? And they just sit there. Like, she could just answer the question. Or like at the end with Jon, like, well, you're the king. Like, they had that whole walk upstairs where he'd be like, I don't care about the Iron Throne. No, they just didn't say anything. It doesn't make sense. They're creating this false tension because they don't really know how to write it any better.
Well, I mean, they do that throughout the series where there's a bunch of conversations that, like with Varys and Dany's that like waited until Dragonstone, even though they had to take a fucking like however many day boat ride together. Like they do that a lot to
it's
build
terrible.
up that
Yeah, they've done it.
false tension.
They've done it a lot, and they seem to think that it's a great move, and it's just not. It's played out, and
What? You mean to say you didn't think that Sansa and Arya weren't going to be at odds for the rest of the series?
Yeah, that was...
Yeah, well, that whole plot was a mess. It just never happened.
All right, well, I'm going to give this episode a 4.75 again from last week. I feel like my rating over time might change, but I feel like as I was watching this episode, I'm just so excited to be watching it that this is happening, and also just getting that kind of fan service almost. Like, I know that it's fan service at points. Like, I know that Tormund's comic relief, but I love it. Kind of thing. So I'm okay with everything that's happening right now, and also I'm happy to have this like lighter moment with all the characters right before we're gonna get some really hard scenes probably coming up in the next few episodes, if not just the next episode. So yeah, that's really how I was feeling about it. So I'm going to go through the scenes. All right, let's just go in order of what happens, and we'll probably skip around a little bit to talk about some things that coincide with some other scenes, but if that sounds okay with everybody, then let's just do that.
Let's do it.
All right, so first scene we get is Jaime Lannister being confronted by Dany, Sansa. We finally feel like we're getting our first Kingslayer trial here. But it kind of ends pretty quickly because Brienne vouches for Jaime here. We do get a nice line from Bran, the things we do for love, which takes us back to that early episode of Bran being kicked off of the tower by Jaime. Yeah, Jaime pretty much gets off scot-free.
I thought this was a real missed opportunity for Bran to defend Jaime for killing the Mad King because he knew about the wildfire stashes. and just the real reason. And that could have been brought out to the open so everyone would know and would kind of get off his dick a little bit about it.
But that doesn't make sense in the way that they've established Bran.
Katie?
Because he doesn't. Why do you keep telling me to shut up? You shut up. Okay, like Bran. It's like later when he's in the strategy room and he's talking nonsense. He has no proof. He has no credibility. Like, if he's just like, oh yeah, the Kingslayer had a bunch of, the King Ares had a bunch of wildfire under the sept. How do I know that? I know that I don't fucking know. It just doesn't make any sense for him to speak up. I wanted him to do it because it would have been dramatic and satisfying, but it wasn't going to happen.
Right.
Yeah. I wanted Jamie to do it. I wanted him to like speak back and force, Dany to confront her family's history and confront the fact that all parties were there and in that room at one point were against her and for good reason.
Did you think this would go a lot longer? Like, I thought this would be half the episode.
Yes.
Like we go back and forth.
If they weren't facing down the apocalypse, maybe. That's the kind of the problem with this episode is that they're on a ticking clock and the stakes are so high that it's almost excusable that these people just. They're kind of like, whatever, like, we need bodies. Well,
they don't even realize that it's, like, only a few hours away until, like, halfway through the episode or whenever it is when Tormund shows up, right? They know it's imminent, but, like, that's when the urgency really kicks in. So this just felt like, it felt really quick, which I think they had to do, but I still thought we got more time.
They've sort of had, like, individual characters having a lot of tension between them, but this could have been a really good excuse to have the all-out kind of screaming match between all the different parties that has been like building, and then the second half could have been them kind of resolving their differences.
But I think they've had so many conversations about we're all like siblings of like awful fathers, we're going to be better, like, and then Dany comes in with this like righteous indignation, and it's like, wait a minute, you've already accepted that your father was a fucking like maniac. Like, I guess I just didn't understand that part.
Yeah, she doesn't seem to have accepted it.
Well, she admits it last in season 7 when like Jon's like, she starts like railing at Jon in their first meeting, and she's like, and he's like, oh well, your dad murdered my uncle and my grandfather, and she's like, oh yeah, my dad was a terrible person. Please don't judge me for what he did. And like that's kind of as much as they do with it, which is frustrating because it's not like we've had in-depth conversations with Barristan or anything like that, unless I'm forgetting.
No, you are, because Barristan kind of told them in Marine, but they also had the conversation in Marine where they're talking about the Greyjoy father, the Lannister father, and the Mad King, and they're all like, yeah, they were all fucking monsters. We have to do better. And like that's how they make a pact with the Greyjoys in the beginning. So I just didn't understand why this was still like top of mind for Dany.
Yeah, that was so long ago they forgot.
Michal,
yeah, in terms of this scene, I was thinking like, I thought it was a good moment for. It's one of those things that the show does that it's sort of like they're almost looking at you and they're like, we're fast forwarding. We know that that we're fast forwarding. Let's just accept that we're fast forwarding.
Yeah.
And like, I will say that I think Jon being a non-entity in that scene was sort of effective in that way, because Dany really didn't have any allies once Sansa was like, all right, well, which was a strong moment, I thought, even though she's never expressed that she trusts Bran with her life before, because she sent her out last year because she didn't trust her, but whatever.
What was that?
What?
Never happened. Never happened.
The reason Brienne was at the meeting last in season 7, the big meeting, was because Sansa was like, "Go away, I don't trust you."
I don't want you to side with Arya.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that. God.
That's why I said never happened.
That was real dumb.
But now she trusts her, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Sure. Obviously, like, the season of Brienne staring out a window for 8 episodes was the closest to female characters I've ever
season 5. We don't talk about season 5.
The big reveal, of course, is that Cersei isn't coming to help them, of course not. But Jamie says that she's brought 20,000 men from the Golden Company, and they say, "Oh, that's enough to defeat all of us here." After the battle, and I'm like,
Ridiculous.
with 2 dragons and like 50,000 men that you have at Winterfell. Okay, whatever. That didn't seem. I'm like, unless they really expect to lose, pretty badly, which in that case it doesn't matter. Like, if the dragons survive, the men don't matter.
Yeah.
So, that was a stupid thing to say.
And also, like, I do feel like Tyrion's been making dumb moves, but he's been getting called out on things that are beyond his power. Like, he made the most sensible kind of. He made the logical.
Him being fooled.
Yeah, I don't know.
Sure,
Some
but
of them he had to take a chance.
yeah, he would have slightly more credibility if he had made a good decision in how many seasons. As it is, it's hard. Later when we get to, like, I need your brain,
Right.
your brain must survive, and it's like, what has Tyrion done lately?
Lost Dorne.
He got the Tyrells killed.
Yeah, single-handedly, destroyed 3 of Dany's allies.
But
Led
to
them to
be
destruction.
fair, like that, none of that made much sense.
Right, it's an entire plot contrivance to keep Cersei alive, and it's his character suffered for it.
Right.
So, do you guys think Cersei is really pregnant now?
Yes.
That she's lied?
Yes,
She definitely is.
Yeah.
but it doesn't matter, like, at all.
I mean, unless we, like, jump ahead, like, 7 months or something or whatever, I don't see it mattering.
So they're
She ain't
playing
gonna be alive.
1 truth and 3 lies or whatever the game is?
Sorry, Katie just posted a wine baby.
That's probably all it's going to end up being, if we're honest. So,
Right, yeah.
That's what it is in the books.
To me, it
Yeah.
felt like they wanted the pregnancy to make the viewers think that, like, Cersei was really going to do this, but the whole time you're like, this isn't going to happen. Like, I don't think they really fooled us, so it's weird that they fooled everyone else. I think the angle they could have used with Tyrion here that would have made more sense is to say that he really wanted them to go north because he thought that was the better option, so he was willing to maybe give bad advice or overlook the fact that he knew Cersei probably wasn't going to send the armies because he just wanted an excuse to get Dany north.
I don't know. I'm weirdly giving them some room on this Cersei pregnancy thing. Like, it might be nonsense, and I don't actually think this baby's going to be born. But I feel like there might be some plot, something that's because I really don't see the story after episode 3. So I'm willing to be like, all right, maybe they are going to skip forward in time,
Right.
and maybe the North falls, but like they fight to almost a draw or whatever with the armies of the dead, and Cersei really does have
Right.
time. I don't know. So I'm weirdly kind of okay with that, but I mean, just to go back to Tyrion for a second, like, I don't think the writing is good on this, but I do kind of appreciate the idea that, like, it's impossible to be a good hand of the king or queen. Like, it's virtue, like, especially for a Targaryen, but like, this is where we started this story, right, with Ned not being able to do anything right. So I kind of like that we've come back around to that.
Right. I mean,
isn't
it's,
it like
it's,
being like a publicist for like a really, spoiled prima donna? Like, you're never going to be doing a good job.
And you're never going to be doing it for very long.
right? And you're checking the worst impulses of this person who has power and kind of like trying to make flourish like the good ones that they have. And yeah, you'll never win because it's just a constant.
Yeah, it's a position of here's power, but not really.
Just want to walk into the sea and leave it all behind.
Mm-hmm.
Well, back to I know this is a little bit off topic of the scene, but back to Cersei. It would be very poetic for them to have Cersei have the baby, Cersei die from having the baby, Jaime's probably already dead by this point, and then Tyrion raising up a bastard child.
Zombie Cersei
Interesting.
gets it on with Zombie Mountain. Fanfic. Did we just ship that?
No, that
wasn't what I was going for.
That wasn't Casey's point.
That's what I heard.
I think there are some weird ways they could go with this, and like the boldest direction would be if somehow episode 3 is like the battle, and that's it. But yeah, maybe their forces are so depleted, then it's really a battle with Cersei, and then you've got. But I feel like that's not 3 episodes to figure out. Maybe it's more. I don't know. So
Yeah.
I just don't really see what's coming after next week. Next week will hopefully clear that up a little.
I don't see, like, this is the battle that can beat the others. They have dragon glass, they got Valyrian steel, they have dragons, and like this is where it ends. Like if the others like defeat Winterfell,
right,
Cersei's done. Like 20,000 men are going to be 20,000 corpses.
So what I thought was going to happen was that they have the big battle, and it goes really badly. So basically, the White Walkers overwhelm Winterfell, and they probably go in through the tunnels, and then they have to retreat to the south, maybe, and that puts them back into contact with Cersei, or maybe part of them go to the Iron Islands. So I think it's going to be it's going to be a massive defeat.
I think that's what we're expecting. But then, how do they rally from that?
Dragons.
Yeah, but if the dragons are still in play, that they haven't lost.
Well, no, not necessarily. I think they could definitely be in retreat. Well, like to skip to the very end of the episode, they made a very deliberate point of showing that all those White Walkers have got all those javelins, and they're all ready to like take down some dragons. They
have a dragon. They have a nice dragon,
somewhere.
Which maybe it doesn't defeat Drogon, but maybe it like leads him away from the battle, and they get involved in a fight, and then they get overwhelmed by the infantry.
And they just need to go far, like they just need the dragons to carry enough people to whatever White Harbor or whatever, and in show geography, I can see it being pretty.
Did we have the same conversation on the preseason cast?
We did.
Deja vu real bad.
Yeah.
Dueling White Walkers.
That's what she said.
Well, the next scene doesn't really matter that much because it pretty much gets resolved and halfway through the episode. But we have Dany being really angry at Tyrion for like 5 seconds. Anything more we want to say on that?
So, yeah, I had something. So, in the last season, Tyrion gets convinced that the White Walkers and everything are real. The Night King is real, and the dead are coming because of a conversation with Jon. But then Daenerys never really talks to him and says she's good to go north too. So I do kind of wonder like how much of convincing Cersei was him thinking he still kind of needed to convince Daenerys, not realizing she was completely won over to helping Jon.
Well, she was won over, but she didn't want to leave King's Landing, even though she knew that she needed to go north. That was the whole dilemma.
Oh, why she didn't attack King's Landing first, and how that was... I'm confused about the question. I misunderstood the assignment. I'm sorry, teacher.
It's all right. Just basically that I think if you include the motivation for Tyrion of motivating a lot, of convincing Dany to go north in some of his actions, since there wasn't a conversation between when she told Jon and when they were in the fighting pit. There was no time that she told Tyrion that we saw. Maybe Tyrion just wasn't quite in the know. And I think that explains a good bit of his actions with, where he was in the dark on Dany's intentions.
I thought Daenerys' intentions were made clear when she flew north of the wall and saw the army, and then that was it.
Right. And they brought one back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it feels weird talking about this scene because, like, this ends up, like, not becoming a problem or plot line really at all. It kind of just ends midway through.
Varys has a chance of being Hand of the King if it's taken away from Tyrion. Did anyone find that weird? Because he didn't have a line, and, like, he maybe had one line in the first 2 episodes.
He's gonna be dead.
Yeah. All right, go on. Sorry.
I don't think Tyrion's gonna die.
No, Varys is gonna die.
Oh.
So he wouldn't have a chance.
He's gonna die.
He's gonna be dead soon.
Yes. All right, so our next scene is one of my favorite scenes. It is Gendry, and he is so steamy, doing all his blacksmithing.
His shirt's on.
But, he has a low V, and you can really see a little bit of that chest and that chest hair.
Yeah, less is more.
Yeah, Arya's checklist for the day was watch Gendry, flick bean, talk battle strategy.
Stop!
My favorite part of this scene was when Arya starts throwing the daggers. There's a guy standing behind the pole, and he looks over his shoulder.
Yes.
And when she throws the second one, he just runs.
Yeah, he's like, I'm over here taking a Union 5. Give me a break, man.
That guy's no fool.
Oh my god! I feel like when she was throwing those like daggers, like Gendry's boner was just getting bigger and bigger.
Jesus Christ.
Hey, you said flip
Really?
the bean.
For the purposes of accuracy, he was born in 87 and she was born in 97. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, damn it. I knew he was way older than her.
Yeah, but
That's not way older.
It's 31 to 21.
It's not that
That's
much older.
That's considerable.
No, it was a big thing in the fandom when they cast him because all the Arya Gendry shippers were like, no, they can't be together, and they've spoken about this multiple times.
That's
during
what we
the show.
thought.
It's like, yeah, well, we can't really do that plot line because like
They're like
Maisie's
brother
a
and
child.
sister.
We'll talk about it. I have issues.
Yeah.
well, we all know that, but I mean.
But anyway,
what
she
do you think about
demands
the
that he
episode?
make her weapon, right? Make my weapon.
Yes, this is. I mean, she's a little impatient about him not getting her sword ready. And
Dumb spear.
whatever.
Oh, so as far as the forging of the obsidian, it seems that like they're viewing it as more of like blowing glass instead of like
But
metal.
it's not. They're not.
Yeah,
glass,
because
they're
it's dragon
hammering it
glass.
and forging
I
it.
don't know. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's not important. It's not important. Just let's build the weapons and move on.
I hope
Right.
George makes it a point to be like, and as everyone knows, dragon glass can't be forged. It has to be shaped and worked into.
Right.
Yeah, that's
but,
how
like,
One-Eyed Willie lost his eye. He was trying to hammer out.
Yeah, right next to those potatoes.
Yeah, he's gonna have a whole Gendry POV in book 7.
Did you say One-Eyed Willie, Michal?
You got some bubble.
Chester Copperpot.
I'm about to say it. On a serious note, in the books, dragon glass probably won't even kill whites, so it's a non-starter. I mean, it actually in the show it makes things a lot easier if you can deal with them that way. Although, whatever, we'll see. It'll work however.
Isn't it already proven with
No, that was a
Sam?
white water.
Oh, okay.
No, it's a difference between the others and the whites.
Well, Sam tries to kill Small Paul, I think, when he's in his white, but the shadow's on his armor, I think. So I think it's been chest.
And that's why he puts like the ember in his mouth and like Small Paul's head bursts into flames like some kind of fucking torch.
Yeah, I mean the only way to beat them is fire, but you can chop limbs and just make them useless, as a way of slowing them down. But whatever, it's not important to this conversation.
All right, we'll talk more about this stuff later, I'm sure. But the next scene is Jaime and Bran by the heart tree, and we have this kind of like I felt like it was very much like us getting a closure conversation with this, or very early plot point with Bran being kicked out of the tower. We kind of have a little bit of a resolution of that, and we also kind of
Pushed out.
Whatever, yeah. Kind of get some, I mean, at least I got some bad feelings about Bran's future, or Jaime's future for that matter, in this scene. Yeah.
I am not into the whole, I'm not Brandon Stark anymore. Like, I know they need it for the story or whatever, but it's not my favorite. It's one of my least favorite things.
I mean, they could easily, like, call this episode, or, like, the past 2 episodes, really, like, the Game of Long Stairs or something.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. But they're not going to do that. I mean, there is a lot of, like, staring longingly while talking, it seems like.
Yeah,
I just don't really understand the point of the conversation. If like, if we're not gonna, like, Jaime has good parts in this episode, and then he has parts where it's like this, and sort of like the trial where it's like, we're not actually really achieving any character moments because like we've sort of gone to the point where like, all right, you already feel bad. We know you already feel bad. You're a good guy now. Whatever. You went north, and so it's. Like, to have him talk to, like, I get it, and if he hadn't spoken to Bran, we probably would have been like, I didn't speak to Bran, but because of what they've done
It's a
with Bran,
checklist,
it's kind of like cool. So he's having a conversation with the Three-Eyed Raven. It doesn't mean anything.
A little bit of this
it feels like
translate what we know to the characters because the characters haven't met in so long,
right?
Yeah.
And so we're like, we know it, but they don't.
The wording sometimes is just so bad. Like, can you not just like? I don't remember exactly how Bran worded it, but it left me confused for for 30 seconds or so. He couldn't just say, "Yeah, well, that needed to happen so that we could both be here and both fight for the living," and kind of be like, I don't know. It wasn't even like you got water under the bridge for a second. The wording was so weird as I stumble over my own words to make that point. But it felt like that. There were so many times in the episode they did that.
It's I mean, I understand like Bran has achieved this Zen-like existence where he has let go of anger and hope for his future, and it makes sense that he doesn't begrudge Jaime, but it robs us of any catharsis that this scene could have, where it's like literally like the original sin of the entire show is that Jaime pushed this kid out the window. It paralyzed him. He's here again. He's trying to be a better person. If he has to face his victim and actually like be held accountable for like the emotional damage that he's done, like Bran could at least be like, okay, well, I'm not Bran anymore, but this is what I remember you making me feel when you did this to me. And I feel like that would actually complete Jaime's arc of, he actually has to look this person in the eye and see what he's done. But we don't get that because there's not any time.
I think we did kind of get that, though. I felt like that we got some kind of closure with this because Bran is so far gone. And I think Jaime can tell how different he is now than, what he was when he first met him. And I don't think Bran can really articulate how he was feeling at some point, because I don't think he really has feelings anymore. I don't think he would even be able to be like, past Bran felt this.
Yeah, I mean, he says he doesn't feel anger towards anyone, but like even when I feel like when he delivered the line, like, and I'd still be Brandon Stark, there was like a little hint of sadness in it.
Right. So, but what does he mean when he says like he'd still be Brandon Stark, obviously, but when he says Jaime would still be the same? Is he saying like if Jaime hadn't pushed him out the window, then like
he wouldn't
Robert
be the
would
Jaime
be king
who would
and
have
everything would be fine? Or
it doesn't. I don't like that line of logic. I really think it's kind of very morally dodgy. Like you can come to a place where a character is like, this horrible thing that happened to me happened for a reason and blah blah blah. But like to be like, but that was okay actually that you threw me off a tower. It was a good thing, really.
But it had to happen for me to become Professor X. But whatever.
I feel like it shouldn't matter whether Bran forgives him. He still did something horrible that he's never really faced, and that could have been like the perfect scene for him to like actually talk about it or try and justify it, or that could have been like a really emotional moment where it is coming full circle and he's confronting a child that he tried to kill at his like darkest moment, or when he was
I tried to kill.
I think it's like it's him presenting as very stoic, and as he realizes that things that are, as he knew them, like out of his control and even out of Jaime's control, because all of this was, time is a flat circle kind of thing. Like Hodor would have always been Hodor because, he looked through time to make him that. And I think it's just like he's accepted that these things happen. And then, he even gets a line like, who says there's an afterwards? Like,
sure, it makes sense logically, but watching it, I wanted them to drive for the harder emotion, I guess is what I'm saying.
I think all that I think what they were going for was he literally in the scene before, in front of everyone, he says, "I'm not going to apologize," when he's talking about everything else he did, and then he sees Bran and instantly apologizes. So I think they're going for that, but all he says is like, "I'm sorry," not "I'm sorry, you were a little boy, you didn't deserve that." None of those things.
Yeah, it's easy to forget though. Like Cersei wasn't like the villain in that scene, right? I mean, like they get caught.
She was fucking your brother.
And he's just like, "All right, I'm just gonna push him out the window," and she's like, "What the fuck did you do that for? You didn't need to do that." Like she wasn't about killing the kid. I mean, the Cersei now would just be like, "Yeah, push him, like take him higher and push him off." But
light him on fire and push him off.
I mean, maybe I always kind of took her reaction in that scene as just the way she liked to be toxic and controlling of Jamie. I think she kind of knew what she wanted done, didn't say anything because she knew he would probably do it, and then used it as an opportunity to call Jamie dumb.
Don't we get when she's in her head where she's like, I didn't want him to do that?
Yeah, she wanted them to like threaten him or
just use her normal tactics.
Emotional scarring.
Well, like 3 or 2 books later, whenever she starts getting POVs, I mean, she might have lied to herself just a little bit by then. She's pretty good at that.
Well, yeah, she does a lot of that.
My memory, I haven't watched season 1 in a long time, but my memory of the scene is that Jamie's reaction is pretty spontaneous. Like, he looks at his sister, she's just like, okay, what are we gonna do? And then he just shoves him. And so I don't think you can put it on Cersei in that scene. I think Jamie made that decision all on his own impetus.
Oh, I agree 100% with that. I'm just saying I wouldn't say that Cersei necessarily didn't want it to happen.
But I think ultimately, like, for me, it's a big question in the books, right? Because Jamie's redemption arc is a lot more linear than it is in the show, a lot significantly more so. Although obviously there's still definite ups and downs and issues. But I think, it would have been, from a book perspective, really cathartic to see that, because Jamie doesn't ever confront that in the books so far. And that's a big thing that fans, kind of talk about. And every so often I'm like, oh, Jamie, I love you so much. And then I'm like, oh, he's never thought about this. Like, he's never even bothered to think about it, and it feels like a missed opportunity.
To me, it's
Plus,
kind of...
Nikolai Coster-Waldau is a really good actor, and I feel like you could have actually had him like push a little more emotionally. I know it's early in the episode, but still,
his eye acting is really good.
Yeah,
he is.
His face
he
journey.
is great, but even something like him not being able to walk and Jamie losing his hands, and like thinking about that as like the way that's changed them or the way the world sees them. I feel like there's something they could have conversed about, the way those events have shaped them or sort of separated them from the world. I don't know. I feel like it's a really great opportunity that they just did nothing with.
I kind of felt that I feel like I have a lot of problems with Jamie's character in, season 5 didn't happen for him, but like season 6 and season 7, I feel like we kind of reverted back for him to old Jamie in those seasons, and then so seeing this now
for no reason
is a bit confusing. But when I was watching this episode, I felt like I forgot all those seasons and just remembered book Jamie, and this is the path that he's led on, like going to be on, and I felt like it made it all okay.
Yeah, I mean, we did just get a couple seasons ago, like him, with Edmure saying, like, I don't fucking care about you. I don't fucking care about anyone. I want to get back to Cersei. Like, I'll kill everyone that stands in our way. And now he's like, now I need to fight for the living. I'm a good guy.
Yeah,
but
so
besides podcasters, who does care about Edmure? These are the only people that'll defend him.
Oh, come on.
Who?
Champion of the small folk.
That's right.
But yeah, that's kind of, that overall point is somewhat how I'm helping to kind of get myself through watching this season, where is to kind of ignore some of the stumbles that the show has done with character arcs.
Yep.
And just imagine the characters as to where I think they should be at this point in the books. Because they did that with honestly most characters that happened through season 5, 6, and 7, where they just kind of picked a moment and then advanced the character to their natural endgame progression of development without really showing, the route to get there, and just said, okay, we're just going to make them at the point now that everyone wants to see them at, and then we're just going to go on and focus on
It's like in Westworld, they just go in and play with the sliders on their personality, and we're like, it's good.
Yeah, exactly. But I think, Jamie's...
Ooh, when does Westworld come back?
Jamie's was not till 2020. Jamie's was one of the most egregious ones, because it was advancing along the normal path that the books was taking until season 5, and then they just reverted it back, and then until the end of season 7, and randomly advanced it again. Actually, one of the most annoying things the show ever did for me was making a a change from the books that was actually good and had potential, with that scene of Marcella on the ship and then just immediately killing her.
That was season 5. It's not.
Yep.
What's the next scene?
It's the lost season. Yep.
I do just want to say, though, I still blame the bad brand writing. I think the whole way that they've conceived of this is wrong.
They've wasted his character, and also, they advanced him too far, made him too all-knowing, and then aren't even using it properly to its full potential. It's really really frustrating.
The Reeds haven't come when they called the banners. What the hell?
Well, they're not coming at all.
I don't think the Reeds exist anymore.
She's gone.
It's not clear to me what Bran even brings to the table. Like, he has all of the world knowledge. What is he actually sharing with them to help them defeat the Night's King? What valuable insights does he have about this all-encompassing threat? Like, can he tell them the origins of the Night King or its weaknesses? Well, he doesn't know that, so he doesn't know everything.
We find out what he's good for in this episode, in that he is going to be the special shiny object that gets blown up next episode and represents defeat. It's like he is the all mind. He has the history of Westeros in his cranium, and so he must be sacrificed. And that, because that's the only, like, as he was saying that, I was like, of course, that's like the only thing he's good for anymore is being set up as the MacGuffin in the Godswood.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's also like such a waste of the hold the door and Hodor's sacrifice. Like, it makes it almost useless. Where it's just like there was no real point. You know, he hasn't had an impact on the story since returning to Winterfell. Besides, you know, the Jon stuff.
Has anyone even asked about Hodor and Winterfell?
No.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I don't like.
Well, everyone that lived there pretty much was dead, except for the Starks and.
Yeah, but the Starks never forget.
Hey, where's Hodor?
Well, where's everyone I grew up with? Like, she's pretty much accepted they're all dead. Like, I don't know. Like,
I mean, they also haven't really talked about Rickon, so. You know.
Yeah, I mean, like, Sansa is overjoyed to see fucking Theon. Like, that's the situation we're in.
What a weird dynamic that was.
Yeah.
All right, but let's go to the next scene where we have Jaime further redeeming himself through these Tyrion and Brienne scenes. We have Jaime and Tyrion kind of reminiscing a little bit about when they were last here in Winterfell, and then right following that, Jaime sees Brienne and stares longingly for a few seconds. Then he goes down and talks to her, and he sees that Pod can actually, hold his own in a fight, which is pretty awesome. And then Jaime asks Brienne if he can fight under her command, and she agrees.
So good.
Yeah.
Pod's a man.
Pod's
what
the
does
man.
he say? Yeah. He wants to work under you or something under you?
Yeah, it was like,
he said he wants
I will
to
work under you.
Serve under her or something.
Serve under her, I think
it's cute. Yeah, it's cute. And I think that it's even better because...
He is a bottom.
Oh my god.
Jesus Christ.
I think it's even better because the scene starts off with Brienne being like, why are you never say anything nice to me, what are you doing? Like, and he's just like, no, I'm just here to help. Like, you're in charge. Like, I'm not here to be a dick. I'm not here to be that Jaime. Like, it's just, I don't know, kind of the first time that he's just being friendly to her as an equal.
Because he loves her.
He does. He loves her.
I did like that he drops that like, I'm not the fighter I used to be, which was both a good moment of kind of humility from him, and also I'm wondering if that might come back at some point.
Between him and Davos saying how they're not soldiers and they can't fight, it's like, what the fuck are you there for? Like,
soup, yeah.
I guess.
When is Jaime going to give the sword to someone who can use it? That's all I'm saying. Like, that's like a White Walker killer.
For real.
Like, give it up, bro.
Is this where Tyrion says that Jaime always knew what Cersei was and he loved her anyway?
Yes.
Because I thought that was a good line.
Yeah.
That was good.
Interesting, like, thought path. And I know that Wolfcast delved into this pretty thoroughly, but I liked, I think it was Bina who made this point about
she's pretty smart. You should listen to her.
Yeah, she is very smart. So smart that I don't even remember what I was gonna say. So you guys go.
I think that's literally the point I got up to, and then I got another. I have like 6 podcasts I need to listen to, and they all like superseded each other. So
Wolfcast was good.
Yeah, it was really good.
But I think that was, I don't know, it was a good moment. Again, it's sort of like, this stuff is a lot of the time really not consistent. But I do think that there's something to be said, even in the books, about Jaime, not being as duped as he would like himself to have been. And I think that's a strong character moment.
Cersei changed over time, and he knew what she was and all that. I mean, they were hiding their relationship for so long. But I do think that what she is now is not what she was in season 1.
No,
not to
for
say
sure.
that he didn't care back then either.
Right.
So
it was her being ambitious and the current circumstances that they were, and then it's come to now where she's blown up half of King's Landing because of her ambition, and he's seen just what kind of a monster she is. But she is like a drug, because even in the books he's like, I love her, but no, fuck her. Like he goes, especially in Feast for Crows, he really kind of jumps to each side.
Yeah. It all started from his Kingsguard training with, we can't protect Aerys's wife from Aerys, and it's what they were taught to. We're put, the certain bad things in the world, put them all into little boxes and just lock them away in the back of your mind.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, because there's a lot of tolerance for monsters in this world, and it sort of only becomes unacceptable when the monsters are women. So
yeah.
Or you overthrow them, and then retrospectively you couldn't tolerate it.
Mm.
Well, on a different note, one thing I really noticed in this scene was, like, we got these two brothers who in the show have like a fairly good relationship with each other, and they're talking about, I think they both have these, like, they both deal with feelings of lust over, like, their own like better judgment. Jaime, I think, really knows that he shouldn't be fucking Cersei, but yet he does. And then same with Tyrion in the books it's Tysha, but most of the time, but, he sleeps around. And, to have them talk so openly about that at that one point was kind of nice, in a way, to, like, admit it.
Yeah, but isn't this, like, a kind of play on inherent wealth, like, that these guys never had to do anything to become this rich and powerful, so they just felt like they could do anything?
Yeah, and I guess that's, like, their, like, first world problem, kind of. All right, so should I move on to the next scene?
Yes, come on. Some of us have to take showers and get up in the morning.
All right, so I'll combine the next two. We have Dany and Jorah talking for a little bit, and Jorah kind of tells Dany that she really needs to take a step back from Tyrion's mistakes and see that, that people have made mistakes before, and that she should just take him back, which she kind of takes to heart, because she doesn't think Jorah would ever give this kind of advice, given that Tyrion kind of took his spot. And then that directly leads into this really awesome, or at least for me it was very awesome, Dany and Sansa scene, where they really kind of have like a, like they use their war with words, I guess, and like really talk to each other about everything, and Sansa keeps her own. I think Sansa won the argument for sure.
Oh yeah.
In a perfect world, they would both get rid of Jon and just rule together.
They would be lesbian
kissed.
lovers.
Oh my God.
They have more chemistry when they are touching hands than Dany and Jon have had for 2 seasons.
I will say, Emilia
Yeah.
Clarke has incredible chemistry with female actresses. Actresses, like she and Missandei, her and Yara, her and Sansa. Like, she's being miscast.
Yeah.
Did you notice the shade they threw at Kit Harington's height?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wait, I missed that.
Dany.
She was talking about like he's the only guy that I've ever trusted, and she's like, "Who's the other guy?" And he's like, "Someone much taller."
I thought they were just talking about like dick size or something.
Yeah, no, I thought they just meant that Jason Momoa is a mountain of a man.
Yeah.
I really wish Jon in the show could see what Khal Drogo looked like.
Be like,
Yeah.
Well, one thing I was going to say is that whenever Jorah starts talking, like this kind of like buzzing noise fills my ears, and that's it. But also,
he's a jealous bro.
It is, yeah. No. Somehow he's not jealous anymore. I don't know.
Somehow he became he became like Barristan right before he died. I feel like, which makes me feel like he's gonna definitely die soon.
The spirit of Barristan transferred into him.
He had grayscale. He faced his own mortality, figured shit out, and now he knows what's important, and he's living his best life.
Him and Dany are on good terms. They've kind of made up. I feel like their story is over.
Yeah, I feel like he's been like, you know what? I am Sir Friendzone, and I'm going to own the fucking shit out of this.
So I'm a little confused, though, because she's like, well, I named Tyrion my hand because I thought you were never coming back. But it was emotional when she sent him away to get cured for grayscale, and I thought maybe that's the end of him. But, like, he had also betrayed her, and she, were they even really, like, that tight where she would have been like, oh, yeah, you're my hand, if he didn't have the grayscale? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, she does say, like, yeah, you fucked up, but it's been long forgiven, and you made up for it.
I mean, he gives her pretty good advice.
I think I made my feelings pretty clear about their conflict last week. And I'm, but I'm okay now. Like, I still wish they were like, all right, it's stupid that we're fighting. But, like, at least they got to a point where they know what they're fighting about. And that to me was a massive improvement, because at least they tried to talk it out and we're like, oh yeah, this thing we really don't agree.
They got the deal.
Oh yeah, it all makes sense. It makes sense for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was just which one of them had more BDE.
BDE.
Big dick energy for women. Oh man, dude. Oh, Michal, on him.
Boo.
Well, if you pay attention to Instagram or whatever it was that Sophie Turner's on, it's probably her.
It's not really clear to me, like, I really like that scene, but it's not really clear to me what Sansa actually wants when she says an independent North. Is it just the title of king or queen? Because presumably they still need the rest of the kingdoms in order to defend and rebuild the wall. So she's going to need Dany for the foreseeable future. So if she thinks she's going to be queen, she's going to need her for the rest of her life to, like, rebuild or reconstruct.
Do you need the wall again if you've killed all of the threat from north of it? I mean...
Good question. That's a good question, but presumably the North's going to be pretty devastated after this conflict is done, even if they do win. Like, Dany could be a good ally. Like, it's not clear to me. Like, well, the thing is, they're not even having a conversation. They're just veiled sort of threats, but declarations, and they're not actually negotiating.
I feel like the North gets abandoned either way, just because they have no food. But also, the North basically ruled itself, like, for a long time, because no one wants to go up there. They just would send taxes down, right?
Well, that's the thing. The water in the North pretty much runs the North. Like obviously there was a lot of problems when the Lannisters took over. Like, I don't know. It's not clear. And again, it's not clear because they're not actually talking about it.
Well, I think as far as, like, feeding the North, this is, like, the big Malthusian event, right? That will make the population in the North, like, feedable through this long winter and not dependent on the South.
So the question is, does Sansa want Dany to help them or not?
I don't think it's that.
Then she needs to explain herself. If she does, then she needs to have a conversation with her.
I think she wants the ally.
I think Sansa is actually in like a better position for that because Sansa's looking for a crack in Dany's armor about, like, everyone must kneel and I am the queen. That's what she's looking for. I don't think she's as concerned with the specifics.
Yeah. So Sansa is kind of shooting for the high point, like you would do in a negotiation, with presenting a more unreasonable argument first in order to negotiate it down later. And so it's kind of like a representative of the northern people. What they really want, just as a populace, is the optics of being able to have a king of the North. Mm-hmm. But when they get down to the nitty gritty of it, it's really just going to be about kind of arguing about economics in order to get both, relief after the devastation of the war, as well as to perhaps, lower taxes or not have them at all. Whereas,
right. And she didn't say, like, we have to have a king or anything. She just was saying, like, what's our situation going to be? It can't be what it was before, I think is the only thing.
Are you trying to say that, like, Sansa wants to rebuild the wall and have the South pay for it?
God damn it! Like, make the more sensible. Don't always go for the joke, Varley. Make the more sensible thing where it just needs to be more like the EU, essentially, where
Or they could be like the Prince of Winterfell, like you could have like the Dornish do.
Yeah, that would actually be an example to go by. A precedent is to see how the Dornish work in comparison and kind of deal with it that way.
I think Sansa is still very wary of Dany. Like, she's still sussing out, because I guess this is obviously it's the first time she's met her, and she's not sure whether she's trustworthy as a Targaryen, whether she has those mad inclinations, and also I guess she hasn't really been exposed to the White Walker threat the way a lot of the other characters are. So she's playing the game from a very different perspective, and that informs a lot of her choices. But ultimately, yeah, the problem is I think they're just not discussing any of these things that they're never going to resolve.
As Michal has said, I think I'm glad that like she just came out and said, you know what, I should have welcomed you at the beginning. Like, they just sort of are having this conversation saying, like, we are kind of at odds. What can we do about it? Instead of, playing the games like they did last season with her and Arya.
Yeah, I mean, I really just enjoyed this scene. I was like, oh my god, in the books, these are my two favorite, like, female characters that have POVs. And just seeing them, like, talk this out, like, woman to woman, using, like, both their, like, powers, or whatever you want to call it. And Sansa really just whole thing where they're, like, talking women to women about, like, men that they've been with and having, like, their small talk. And Sansa just all of a sudden turns it into, what about the North? And it was just so good.
So, didn't Bina say something like they felt like, like Sansa was great in this scene, obviously, but like they felt that Dany was just like kind of bullshitting her. I didn't really feel that.
I didn't feel that at all.
For a second, I thought that they were about to be best friends, and then like it sort of came back down. I thought that it was going well. I thought they were both genuine. So,
I think it really plays or addresses Sansa's history, and it's just like, what are your true motives? Like, let's get beyond this bullshit and like happy talk, and talk like really what's going to happen if we win, and what does the North look like after that?
I think also for them to work together, it's going to take a lot of effort from Dany, because I think that Sansa's really had her share of people she hasn't trusted, both men and women, with Cersei. So I think that Dany has a lot of work ahead of her for this to work out for them.
Yeah, it was also it was almost striking to me, actually, how Sansa, I mean, obviously we know Dany has ambitions for the future, but she's the only one in the episode who's kind of talking like there's going to be a tomorrow and a tomorrow and a tomorrow,
Yeah.
And it was interesting that they didn't draw any kind of attention to that. But the episode is full of people going like, "Oh, we're gonna die in Winterfell. Oh, look, it's the end." Which I get. But it was just an interesting contrast that they almost take her out of the episode once the news comes.
Is it because she can get on the dragons and get away that like she doesn't really feel the same sense of danger that they do?
Sansa can get on the dragons?
No, I was gonna say, I thought
you're talking about Dany.
No,
I was like, what?
That's why Sansa's worried about the North after the battle.
Well, Sansa hasn't seen the dead.
Pay attention, Adam.
Jesus.
Well, I think Adam was distracted because Theon all of a sudden arrives right about now.
And they have a better reunion than Arya and Jon. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really sweet, and like it took me a second to remember like that Theon. Like I was in the mindset of I guess how Jon met Theon, where he like punched him almost in the face, and like I forgot that Sansa and Theon had that whole journey back in season 7, I think 6, 7,
5, 6.
5,
no, it's mainly 5. Yeah. I still haven't watched it.
But I mean,
5 and 6.
Even Jon, like when he was on Dragonstone and saw Theon, he's like, "What you did for Sansa is the only reason I'm not gonna fucking kill you."
So this here is great, but later on, the vibe I got when like they were cutting from everyone and the way she's
a little more romantic,
Theon was,
huh?
I was like, what? This was I thought was great. This was like very sad, This was great, but
I mean, it does make sense for Sansa to go to a man that can't really fuck her, like both literally and theoretically.
Hey, Grey Worm got it done, so don't rule Theon out. Maybe Varys might even get some tail this season. Who knows?
Theon and the Ironborn are they're protecting Bran, so he dead in the next episode.
We already talked about Davos serving soup.
I'll defend that decision. Like I told Katie last night, Davos came into this story through food. It makes sense that he would exit it through food.
There are farmers who can do this shit. That guy who he is talking to is better.
The one that's like, I'm not a soldier.
He's like, I'm a cook.
Likes
Yeah, right.
To feed people.
But then Davos Kryptonite shows up, a precocious girl with facial scarration.
That was great, though. That was the most emotion I feel like we've gotten, like genuine emotion that we've gotten out of Davos in seasons. It just felt like, oh God, that's right. Shireen.
Instead of being the world's greatest hype man.
And Shireen's theme is playing in the background, like the I know, like, when she was singing whatever Patchface sings or whatever in the books.
Oh, man.
Gilly was there. Had Davos and Gilly, did they meet at the wall?
Dude, Gilly is like commander of the...
Yeah, she was teaching her to read.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, $10 on Davos is gonna try to save Shireen impersonator and gonna peace out by the end of episode 3.
When Ned tries to eat their brains.
No.
It'll be Rickon. Rickon is fresh.
Oh.
Gross.
All they gotta do is run in diagonals.
No strategy.
Yeah, they just gotta run zigzag, and Rickon won't get them.
I'm very. I literally change my mind by the minute as to what's going to happen to Gilly and the baby.
Yeah, same.
Yeah,
because bad shit's going down in those crypts. Very bad.
You leave
bad,
Gilly
bad,
alone.
We're gonna have a night baby.
I was saying, if it's one of the White Walkers, they're gonna be like, brother? It smells like brother.
Oh.
No.
So, I forget if this is in the show or in the books. Which one says that there's tunnels under Winterfell for escape?
In the books. Because isn't it one of like Theon's Reek chapters?
I thought it was maybe like one of Bran's where he's talking about like how old it is and how like one level will like lead you up like 3 flights of another level or something.
Yeah, that's the climbing chapter with Bran.
Yeah, I think overall it's the rumor of, the story of Grendel's children, of, underground pathways that stretch between like almost the entirety of the North. It's kind of the general myth around it.
We're gonna skip over John seeing I keep on wanting to say Dolores Ed. Fuck. Dolores Ed, Beric, and Tormund arrive, and we all have a reunion for a second, and then we move right into war planning. And
hold on, Casey, can I just... did anyone else feel like the Tormund meeting was like a kind of jump scare that I don't think Game of Thrones has used before?
Yeah, he totally... Like, the music cuts out when he tackles Jon.
Yeah.
He comes out of nowhere, and he's just like, where's the girl?
Yeah, is the big girl still here?
Well, yeah, and I saw his blue eyes and thought he was a white, too.
No, I just saw it threw me out of the scene because it felt like a jump scare, and I don't think that Game of Thrones has really used that ever.
I missed that, I guess.
Just this season, it seems like. But we go right into war planning, and basically they're going to end up using Bran as bait in the Godswood. Theon and, the 4 Greyjoys are going to protect Bran there. Dany made a point of putting Tyrion in the crypt because Dany wants him alive after this. And then at the end of that scene, Tyrion wants to have Bran tell him his story. So... the one big thing that I really took away from this scene, or there were 2 things. One, that Bran didn't know like some answers to things, which makes me think he's gonna die. And then also that if that cut from that scene is Bran info dumping everything onto Tyrion, then we really don't need Bran anymore.
I was just saying that, like, Bran is apparently the receptacle of, like, all history. And no matter how smart Tyrion is, he cannot be told all history in that small amount of time. My biggest problem with this is that he mentions that this is what the Night's King has tried to do to all the three-eyed ravens, which leads me to believe that they're all fucking idiots, because why don't they just go down to Dorne? Like, why are the three-eyed ravens all north of the wall?
Because it's magic out there.
Shh, Katie.
I don't think...
Yep.
I know that there's a lot of excuses to say that Bran can't, like, give Tyrion all the information, but I think that the show will Tyrion to know the important points. So I really think that they're going to somehow, like, you know, they're going to do that thing in Looney Tunes where they, like, cut a hole around, like, the werewood tree and Bran's going down into the crypt while Theon's none the wiser.
Do you think maybe that Bran told...
Does the Scooby-Doo sound come in?
Too many cartoon references now.
Dress up some dragonglass in Bran's clothes with TNT.
You need an
stuff.
ascot. Is what you need.
a free hug sign around his neck or something?
That won't work. His mark is on me now.
Oh yeah, when did he get scratched? I don't remember this at all.
During a like weirwood dream where he's like looking
Yeah.
Touched him.
That was just before Hodor and Summer and the Three-Eyed Raven died.
and every children
You got too close in Vision Land.
I do like, you know, I think it is. I think it's somewhat hilarious that as he's talking, it's clear just like Daenerys has this short like glance to the side, like, why are we letting him talk? Like, what is he saying?
How did he get in here?
Yeah.
There's no ramp to this room.
There's no ramp. There's no Hodor. How did he get up there?
Sorry.
I am willing to buy. Like, I actually do kind of like the idea that the Night King is invested in purging the history, the collective like mental history of the old world. Like that rings true for me. I'm less crazy about the idea that like Bran is a literal MacGuffin that has to be strategically placed in the Godwin.
But like I think it's interesting that he almost used, or Sam used as the argument what Slughorn told him in the Citadel, like, you know, we are the memories of men, like without us we are no better than animals, like not remembering past our last meal and not like looking forward to our next one. I think like at least philosophically it's an interesting way that they went to like I wish they kind of started the whole series through this, like as in history defines us and what we do really, you know, projects on what we are, and I don't know.
Yeah, it is a cool idea, like memory individually sort of defines who you are, and the way you remember events can determine future things, and memories you don't like can be suppressed, so a lot of the characters having to force to negotiate memories, but also the idea of history, that humanity exists as a collection of memories. And throughout this episode, there seems to be like allusions to like, well, the song at the end is this kind of grand memory. The idea of like swords passing between different family members is kind of cool. So it seems to like undergird the whole episode as like we're alive, so we can remember. So like there's still like this beating heart of humanity or something.
Yeah. It's very Descartesian, like, I think, therefore I am. I remember, therefore I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked that, actually, and I think it was nice to see Bran say something that had a reason behind it, you know? Like, yeah, I know he's a MacGuffin, like, fine, but, like, at least he's there for a reason now, and that was somewhat comforting to me. But I also, and I really liked the philosophy and the theory of that scene. But I was arguing with some people on Twitter as...
Well, you're arguing on Twitter?
Useful people
Well,
do,
one
yes.
does.
Yeah. And, because I think Bran's going to die next week. And a lot of people are like, no, they just set it up. Like, those are the whole stakes. If Bran dies, then the Night King wins. And, like, I don't agree. I think that's kind of, like, missing the point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think that it can all be pinned on a magical thing. I think that's antithetical to the whole point of this story.
And wouldn't the Night King be like, if I kill Bran, I could just literally like wait out everyone dying. Like I don't have to do war anymore. Everyone will just eventually die.
I mean, there is also.
Well, they also keep having babies.
Is everyone gets sterile if you kill Bran?
I mean, there is a lot of people are questioning why like the actual Night King is not like in that last scene. I did think
He's riding a fucking dragon.
Well, that, or he could end up. There's that whole theory about him actually being Bran, and the time's a little weird with Bran. So.
Right.
No.
Casey. No.
You're talking to the Hoovian.
Probably not.
He's on to King's Landing.
That would actually be cool because it would upset our expectations.
If they turned Bran into a White Walker, that would be pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah, so everything is going.
Would that be a white roller?
God damn it.
Speaking of our expectations, they made it very clear that they wanted to lay out what the battle plan was in this episode.
Oh yeah, it's not
Things
happening.
might not go to plan in the next episode. No shit. But I do think that it's very interesting that they've set up a lot of they killed that other and the whites around him died. So they think, oh yeah, if you kill the Night King, it's over. I think it would be interesting if he does die in this next episode. But there are other White Walkers, and so like it just keeps going. You know what I
wonder
mean?
if there's a Game of Thrones for White Walkers.
They're basically drow, so there has to be a hierarchy involved. I'm just
right, but killing him doesn't necessarily mean the whole army would get defeated. I think that's what they're wanting us to believe. I mean, we could have a victory moment that isn't really a victory.
I think I think it's a hive mind in the books. I don't know about the show.
Well, they did show that, like, that wasn't that what they discovered at in the stupid White Walker show and tell episode, that if you kill, or was that Hard Home? I don't remember. If you kill one of the like actual walkers,
right,
not one of
the ones around him, the whites fell, but that's probably just because he was in range. Like, if there's other White
His
Walkers
Wi-Fi
around,
was good.
Right, but if there's other White Walkers around, can't they control them too? I don't know.
All right, let's not think about the physics of White Walkers.
Oh,
unless...
Wait a minute, Casey. I think we have to all remember that these are all Craster's sons, right?
There's one important thing though: is
you have to kill
are they going to
Billy.
be able to raise people that are super dead, like like the Crypts of Winterfell? They've been dead for like 100 years.
Well,
that seems like cheating.
In the books, they say that they were digging up graves to find the Horn of
Yeah,
Jorah.
we let all those shades out into the world.
Thank you, Michal.
You're welcome.
All right, so after this...
Well, okay, sorry, one thing.
Oh my god.
No!
I've only done this 5 times, it's fine, go ahead.
It's a battle tactic thing. I just keep thinking, like, they should all have, like, a pot of, like, wildfire or something to destroy themselves if they think they're about to die.
Immolation.
Because, like, yeah, I feel like they're not thinking about this as, like, our dead are going to become their soldiers. Like, they know in the abstract, but I don't think they're thinking about it specifically.
Yeah.
Kindred spirit. Yeah, no, I feel like, right, yeah, it's one of those things that they haven't tested or really thought about. And right, I mean, though having a whole thing of wildfire isn't quite practical as all that stuff.
Farmer Joe in the soup line is going to trip over a pot of wildfire and Winterfell's going to burn down.
But yeah, they should have carpet bomb things every once in a while. But yeah, the other random thought I had is, taking a piece of dragon glass and essentially just like inserting a chip into your like arm or something. Would that prevent you from coming back?
Interesting.
Well,
These are
so
the
you're like
things.
a Benjen kind of savior, like it's a vaccine.
Dragon glass undergarments.
Yeah.
All right. So we move on to racism in Westeros.
Oh, yes.
We have this Missandei and Grey Worm scene where nobody in Winterfell likes them, and they think that this is not the place for them, and they need to go back to, I think it's Nath, right?
Yes!
Guys, you know who's all inclusive in this? Is the dead. All the whites will accept everyone. Come on. Anyone?
Oh my god. Shut up. Okay.
I mean, we're just going to skim over that Grey Worm would die the first night he's in Nath. But whatever.
Oh, fuck, that's right, the butterfly thing. But that's...
Yeah.
Oh,
That's-
Wait, what? Some kind of inoculation or something.
They don't.
because that's
They're
how
not going to
she
talk
became a
about
slave.
butterflies in the show.
I know that's like extra canon material. So.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
But this was a really sweet scene. It was really touching when she's like, "We're a peaceful people," and he's like, "Hey, we're mindless killing machines."
But also, I like that he thinks that once Daenerys takes the Iron Throne, there will be no one to fight anymore.
Yes, that stuck out
Sweet
to me as well.
child.
Yeah.
I hope these characters don't die.
They will.
I was about to say,
Grey Worm's
doesn't
gonna
this mean they're
die.
going to die?
Grey Worm's dead as his dick is.
I'm just saying, the optics of the two black characters getting a happy ending would mean a lot.
Game of Thrones, we care about optics.
They just need to leave now then.
Yeah. Peace out to
So
Nap.
the thing is, I'm just like, either I don't like they're lampshading Grey Worm dying so hard that I'm like, maybe he doesn't die and Missandei dies instead.
No.
What is lampshading? Is that the opposite of gaslighting? I don't even know anymore.
No, the
It's
two
like hang
terms
a
are not
lantern,
actually
it's-
related.
It's
It's-
awfully obvious.
Lampshading is when you put when you make something, you portray to the reader that something is going to happen in the story.
Isn't that foreshadowing?
No, it's
How is it
more.
different?
It's less artful than foreshadowing.
Matt, do you
Yeah,
have an English
it's-
degree?
yeah.
No, I have a BA in Spanish and a master's in another humanities that is completely useless.
Acting.
So what would that be in Spanish?
They write.
No bueno.
All right, so we move on from this scene to Sam and John and Dolorous Ed, not Dolores, and Ghost, who looked like he was fucking
Ghost,
CGI'd
ooh.
into that scene at the last minute. Am I right?
Yeah, they like copied and pasted him in there. Was he even moving?
No one acknowledged him. Like he was just like right there in the background.
Yeah, like an afterthought. Like, I feel like I saw enough
Yeah.
articles about people complaining about Ghost not being in the episode that they're like, all right, we have $1 million left over. We can use this to put Ghost in.
Yeah, it was Saturday, and they're like, get it in for tomorrow.
And we kind of have a cute moment with them. I'm sure at least one of them will die after this episode coming up. But we have a nice, little. It was very much an episode of like reminiscing and nostalgia of like the first season, and it was nice to see the little bit of the crew that was left back together.
Well, it plays back to like the whole like what is humanity, like the history and memories of everyone, and they're kind of like playing off of that the entire season or episode.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I don't think Ed has much hope. I think there's been too many jokes about him not wanting to be a white in both the show and books. That he'll be one, and then probably Sam or John will burn him real
Yeah.
fast.
Ed and Theon are currently leading the vote for who people think is going to die next episode.
Ed and who?
Theon.
Yeah, Theon's not long for this world.
Barrick.
Theon, I think,
Sure,
is the least likely.
Ugh.
I don't know why. I feel like Theon might be safe.
He's
I
at
don't know.
Brand
He's
Central,
not-
though.
No,
like-
I know
He's
that.
not
That's almost
resolved
why.
yet. They're like tying up all these loose ends and
Yeah.
like pretty little knots with Bran and with
Mhm.
Jorah and with.
You know, you're right. He'll probably just run away when the Night King shows up.
Well, no. Hopefully, like I sincerely hope that everyone that is at Winterfell that dies has like a good heroic death, because they made that far. They like face the White Walkers and everything, and they gotta go down swinging. And I'm going to be disappointed if anyone dies with like being a coward running away and like.
I was thinking that too, actually, Matt, because I was thinking about how many of like the nice moments in this episode might, like, your triumph will turn to ashes in your mouth, next week when it all goes down. And I was thinking that like maybe the best we can hope for is that people die well.
Yeah, Michal, I'm nervous about the Hound. I think he might die a coward. And
I don't care. He doesn't talk to Sansa, so I don't care. Whatever.
What?
Let's move on to the Hound and Arya, and we'll skip over the fire scene to like have it all done at once when we have the knighting. But we finally get them meeting up, and they basically have a very quick conversation about, them hanging out before, I guess, and that was pretty much it.
I am so glad that Arya got to talk to the Hound again.
Wait,
again.
I'm sorry, I cut out for a minute. Casey, we're at the Hound Arya scene?
Yeah.
I thought Rory McCann was really vulnerable here, and I really thought it was excellent acting. It just, like, he's not a soft character, and in this one moment, he's like, well, I did protect you.
Yeah,
like,
I fought for you.
Yeah. And he means it. Like, it's a really touching thing. It's usually, like, he's just gruff and sort of invulnerable, but no, he's actually, like, acting through his eyes, and he's got a very sad puppy face. I dug it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that he's going to die. I think we still have unfinished business with the foreshadowing of Clegane Bowl that last season or whatever.
Oh.
But Barrick's probably dead.
Lampshading of Clegane Bowl.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I don't really know what the Hound is still in the show for. He doesn't really have much to do, but I did like that scene because it was kind of like that idea of, he's a very nihilistic character, but even he, when faced with this horrible threat, is kind of thinking like, what kind of person have I been in life? Have I done anything good? How will people like Arya, who I may have cared about a little bit at one point, how will they remember me? So it was kind of nice.
Yeah, I think it's like a mixture of like care and respect for Arya that, in episode 1 he calls her a bad bitch or whatever, and that's how she's survived, and that's kind of a compliment coming from the Hound, right? And here he says, I fought for you at one point, and that's why, I have the ability to feel things and,
and he obviously sees a lot of himself in Arya as someone who's like very drawn to violence and very consumed by the need for revenge. And he almost seems a bit hurt when she starts to walk away, but possibly also likes the fact that she's not going to follow that path necessarily, and actually wants to go and maybe connect with someone or live her own life, live for herself.
My rewatch, I looked at that scene as I think Arya wanted to bone the Hound.
No.
What?
No.
Yeah, the rewatch, I mean, when you know what happens afterwards, you see Arya approach the Hound like, oh, hey.
She's prospecting. It's a numbers game, Varley, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, she's staying at the corner of the bar and throwing out vibes, and, the Hound just wasn't picking up, so she had to move on.
Yeah, no.
Moving on.
Moving on to some people's favorite and some people's least favorite scene, this Arya and Gendry sex scene where we just have them having sex. I don't really know how to describe anything more than that.
Look, it's great that the character Arya is embracing her sexuality and making this active choice. Having watched Maisie Williams since she was a little girl, it's kind of like watching your sister have sex.
Yes.
It just feels weird.
That's exactly the
sister
point.
Have sex?
No, that's exactly the point I was going to make too. It just like I have a little sister, and my little sister's older, and she's probably doing things, but
Please don't have this conversation.
I don't want to fucking know. I don't want to. I'll probably punch the person in the face that even does something nice to her. So,
well, that seems excessive, Casey.
Yeah.
It's also the thing that just Maisie Williams looks the same as she did when she was 10. She's just a little taller.
Yeah, it's unfortunate in that aspect. I can get over that, but I just sort of felt like the fact that she's this emotionless killer, and she was just sort of like, well, I want to try something. It felt like she wasn't really into it. Mm-hmm. And then even that was kind of like, eh.
So here's
Gendry's
snoring after the fact, and she's like, God damn it, that wasn't as good as
the look on her face when she's lying in bed is both the look of every woman who has just had the worst loss of virginity, well, that was boring, and also the longing look of maybe I am a lesbian after all.
Everyone trying for that reboot of the L Word, man.
I wish.
I didn't know how to feel initially. I think it's hard to decide how you feel about this, partly because of the Maisie thing. And I don't think people should discount that. Like people were like, oh, well, she's 18 or she was 20. It's like that's fine, but we're still allowed to have this experience of, growing up with the character. But for one thing, I'm never a fan of the trope of like, deflower me lest I die a virgin. That's just doesn't work for me. It's a trope, and
is that?
It happens a lot.
All the time. Yeah.
Example.
And like,
usually a guy will attempt it unsuccessfully during a stressful moment.
Or you have women being like, oh no, if they're in a dangerous situation, oh no, I haven't had sex yet. Oh no. It's like a YA thing also.
Oh, like cock blockers with John Cena?
Yeah.
Maybe. But I also just think it's not like Arya is a trained killer. Up until last season, she was in absolute 100% trained killer mode. It seems hard to me to understand how she would, like, I feel like there are a couple of steps missing between touch means kill and I want to have sex with you.
No, I didn't see this as a emotional choice at all. To me, it's like Arya is like barely sussing out like her humanity that has been buried for so long, and it's almost like
right,
like a really detached experimentation. Like, maybe I should try this, but I just like her entire attitude leading up to it, and then like her blank stare after they have sex. It's like I didn't read it as her like vitally reconnecting. It was more like like kind of prodding it, like this new experience that then I'll try it, but I don't necessarily feel like I need it.
Do you think this is an essential skill for a faceless man? Like maybe this is just one of those things that she is like, oh, let me see if I need to pick this skill up. I don't know.
I mean, we get the sense of that in the Mercy chapter, I guess.
Yeah.
I was going to bring that up. Do we want to talk about the preview chapter?
Oh, does anybody not want to talk about the preview chapter? I'm sure this will be very brief.
Is it relevant?
It's only relevant in that what Adam just said, like, does she need this for her faceless man skills, and if she's still doing those kinds of things.
But she's not training for that anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it.
No, not officially, but I mean, maybe like in her mind, her skill set that she wants to develop. That's the only thing I could think of.
I mean, like
for
this
her
episode,
own faceless gang that she's gonna have in Westeros after all this?
Well, just to become like a harder killer. I don't know.
But I just don't think that they're playing it like I think that we're getting romantic cues from certain parts of that scene. Like Arya cares about who Gendry has been with. That's why she starts slut shaming him and grilling him. She cares about Gendry. This isn't random person. This isn't the Hound.
Okay.
So I think that like there is meant to be an emotional connection here, and to me like that isn't earned enough given Arya's very intense experiences and the fact that this is her first romantic encounter ever. Period.
Yeah,
it's interesting. I didn't see her caring so much. I thought she was trying to knock him off his pedestal and get her get one up on him because she was digging into a wound trying to embarrass him.
I thought
how many women have you been with?
I thought that she was just kind of playing around with him. Like, how many people have you been with? Like, getting him kind of warmed up for this thing that she wants to do.
Yeah, see, I thought she was trying to determine if he was skilled enough to, be her first. I don't know. We all got different impressions.
I didn't think it was that.
I'm not sure what that says about the writing, to be honest.
Yeah. I don't think it was that mercenary. I think she genuinely is trying to reconnect with her humanity a bit, and she recovered a bit last season in terms of becoming friends with Sansa again. And I guess she's remembering a point where she was attracted to this guy before all the traumatic stuff happened to her, and she's maybe like Katie says, feeling that out again and seeing if it feels natural or just, I don't know. I sort of see it as positive. Like the way she's acting is still very cold and clinical, but I don't know. I still got a positive vibe from it.
Yeah, but Duncan, do you remember the earlier season where she's like, "You could be my family" to Gendry, and he's like, "No, I couldn't, but you'll be my lady." And I don't think that set up like a romantic thing until she was like checking him out, forging shit in the beginning of the episode, and
Steamy.
yeah.
Oh. Don't bring that up again. Okay.
Bring what up? She said that he was family.
The steamy part.
Family part is fine.
Okay. We're gonna move on to because we're 2 hours into this fucking thing. We're gonna move on to the fire, talking around the fire scenes. We have Tyrion, Jaime, Brienne, Tormund, and Davos and Pod all kind of gathering around, having their what they all kind of are talking about is their last drinks. Tormund's trying to dick up Jaime pretty much the whole time. And at the end of this, we have Brienne getting knighted by Jaime, which is a very heartfelt moment.
I cried.
I cried. Yeah.
I didn't cry because there were 2 grown men in my apartment.
Oh.
Well, I before we do that, I just have to say Tyrion is a very bad influence.
That was so
Why?
funny
Because
with
half
Pod.
a cup. But even Pod gave like those little eyebrows, like, yeah, nice one.
No, they all need to go to bed. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's a hell of a
Alright.
hangover having to fight White Walkers.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think any of them would have slept.
No, they're too riled
Yeah.
up.
You still get rest lying down.
You sound like
I'm
my
just-
mom.
I know. Just saying.
Close your
If
eyes.
I were
pull the
about to fight
curtains.
in a massive battle against the White Walkers, I would probably want to at least try and get some sleep.
If I were going to die the next day, I don't think I would get
Michal,
any sleep.
yeah. I'd want the
Tormund
drink.
trying to like get some game on.
All right,
Isn't it
well,
adorable that
we've
Brandon tells
established
little
which
Pod?
characters each of us are.
Goodness. She tells 27-year-old Pod, like, you can have half a cup, child.
Oh.
So cute.
There was so much that was good about this, like the fact that these 2 dudes are legitimately fighting over Brienne's attention in a non-ironic way, and also this was like I was wondering because like I've been honest about this, like I haven't been emotional about the show in a long time, and this really got me. Brienne being knighted, and it's maybe it's just because it felt like the most like perfect end of an arc. It actually felt earned, like we could see the trajectory for this, and it makes sense that Jaime would do this, and it makes sense that Brienne feels resistance at first, but then it's obvious that this is what she's always wanted. It felt perfect.
That
Yeah.
awkward, like, but joyful smile at the end from her was a truly incredible piece of acting by Gwendolyn Christie.
Brienne deserves everything.
Yeah, this was great.
It was amazing.
Just
yeah,
like
great.
seeing her slowly like tear up, like when Jaime is like, "Come on, you're gonna get knighted right now," and it was just amazing. I cut somebody off though. Was that you, Duncan?
Yeah, Christie's performance is amazing. Just like her sort of skepticism and then bafflement and then slowly kind of welling pride and the music welling behind her. Like it was, yeah. I was getting a bit misty despite being in a room with 2 grown people. But yeah, no, it was a great scene on itself. My only criticism, I guess, is it would have been cool to have seen more than 5 minutes of, Brienne do anything in the past 2 seasons. It feels like we haven't seen her in a while, and this would have been more emotional if she'd had something to do, I guess.
Sure.
Rather than just stand in the background.
I kind of wish the entire episode was just this group of people just bullshitting and drinking.
Like a true bottle episode where it's just in this room.
Yeah.
Where people wonder and they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, we were trying to get in from the cold." Like,
And this scene was, so sitcom-y. It was hilarious.
I did love the way that Nikolai like looks at her as she's rising, and it's just like He loves her so much, and he's so impressed and in awe in her. And then Tormund claps. It was,
Like a clown.
Yeah.
it was so good.
That was really good.
If I was
It's also
king,
like-
I would knight you over and over.
I would knight you 10 times over, my lady.
This is also like the only way that Jaime and Brienne can dialogue love. You know,
This is the
really is.
ultimate sexual climax for these two.
It really is, and I think it's I mean it's sad, but it's also good. It's also a sign of like, I think Cogman is obviously particularly good at this, but like the when the show pays attention to language, and us psycho crazies pick up on it. Like A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is talking about Dunk, because that's
Right.
the title of the anthology of the Duck and Egg books. And like I think that was a very deliberate choice of words, and it was just so effective for me.
Yeah. Chills.
Yeah.
So on a less chilling note, if anyone that streamed it right when it became available last night, did it say? Mine said Game of Thrones season 8 episode 69.
Yeah.
It is episode
yeah.
69.
Okay. We're all
They don't put the episode title on till later for some reason.
Okay.
Which is so annoying. I hate it.
Yeah, the last one was 68 for me, and I thought I was on like season 6, episode 8, and I was really confused.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's just total.
Yeah. But it was episode 69.
Nice. Tricars.
Well done. Did anyone appreciate the fact that Tyrion called for a song instead of a joke this time?
Oh, fuck. I forgot about that scene, too, where he was trying to... Are you referring to, like, that horrible scene when he's trying to get, like, Missandei and Grey Worm to develop a
Yeah,
song?
but there's also another scene before that where he's like, who knows a joke? And he tried again with Missandei and Grey Worm. It's like, you're not drinking enough. Tell a joke. Yeah.
All these scenes I'd forgotten existed. Oh, God.
That was so painfully like, oh God, we have to have Dinklage in a scene. What the hell are we gonna do?
Enjoying Game of Thrones is better when you forget.
Yeah.
We need the Night King. Periodic visits by the Night King.
Factory reset.
But the actor who plays Pod, he can really sing. It was really lovely.
That was his real voice?
Yes.
Yeah, they said so in the after.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't watch that.
Because they said, who can sing? And then they decided on him. Because I think he's done like Broadway and stuff.
Aww.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's recorded VO, but still, it's still
So-
him.
What is the... I haven't really had time to think about this, but what is it just an Easter egg, Jenny of Old Stones, or does that have some thematic resonance, or I guess maybe just nostalgia and longing for
Is
the
it-
past?
One of the few songs they haven't
And about
covered? I don't know.
Tragedy and death. Like,
Yeah.
it's just the general theme of Jenny of Old Stones is tragedy and death.
And the
so
theme of memory and the ghosts that haunt you and not wanting to forget and not wanting to leave the plane. Yeah.
But we don't actually know the song, right? There's
No, we do.
only
You can read
no.
the lyrics if you want.
the
Right,
ghost
I mean,
of
No, we know.
like from the books, like
We know
the ghost of High
one-
Hill requests
Yeah.
that from Tom or something.
We know the contents of the song and we know like one bar from it, but this is the whole song that they've made up.
Right, yeah, we knew like 4 bars essentially of it.
And Jenny of Old Stones.
Maybe if you
Some
talk to
awful-
D&D. We're not even sure it was in the book.
No, it was
Yeah.
because
No, it was.
I used that quote in a recap.
I know, I'm
Like-
being facetious. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say it sounds like only Brian Cogman is the only one. He's the only one that even knew that the song existed, so it probably doesn't have.
Well, he was crying
Much-
when he was talking about writing this episode. So,
Aww.
Yeah.
Wait a minute,
Right.
where did you see that?
they have like the after the episode thing, and then the next day they put up like the game revisited or whatever, which is like mostly behind the scenes. You can see the library of Winterfell and shit they talk about, and it had a lot of that in there.
Oh, because for me, only on if I watch the episode on demand, I get like the after the episode kind of
Yeah.
D&D talk.
On the app, if you go on the app, it's like 15 minutes or something.
Yeah.
Michal, what were you gonna say?
No, I there's a lot of interesting stuff about the song. I think it might be a mistake to read too deeply into it, but I think that the idea of like a crumbling hall is extremely relevant. Full of snow is both Winterfell and the vision of the Undying that Dany has. But like the line that keeps sticking with me is the chorus, which is that, you know, she's dancing and she never wanted to leave.
Yeah,
and that line
ghost.
repeats over and over again. And I like, to me, that speaks a lot to the characters who we're going to lose next week, because I think that like one of the things that this episode does is show us that these people, as much as they're like, oh, well, it's been nice, you know, that they all have reasons to live. Even Davos, you know, he has reasons to live, to remember Shireen and, you know, whatever.
Being everyone's grandpa.
A wife he's forgotten about.
Yes.
Yeah.
2 younger sons that are still on Cape Wrath or whatever.
And I guess the song is about like, I guess the song is also about like characters who were living even after they die through memory and through song. But it's also the song, I think that, or it's possibly the song that Rhaegar played at the tourney of Harrenhal that Lyanna wept to. So it kind of goes back to that original kind of, you know, memory, or that original moment that set, hinted at possibly, that set this whole thing in motion.
And it's, I mean, it's all very connected to Rhaegar because, you know, I think the song is meant to reference Summerhall, and, you know, obviously Rhaegar was born at Summerhall, and that's where Jenny died, and that's obviously what we get in the final scenes of the episode with Jon and Dany. So I think, yeah, I don't know. It's very. I'm continually surprised by how moved I am by this song, and especially Daniel Portman's singing of it. It's so mournful and like very expressive.
I mean, his voice was surprisingly good, but I was really surprised that Florence and the Machine did the closing credits of the same song, and it sounded just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I also love any kind of editing device where a character is talking in a scene or singing in a scene, and then they cut to other scenes like a montage, and it just builds into this kind of epic thing, like something swelling to something.
I'm a sucker for that too.
Sansa giving the bedroom eyes to Theon.
Oh yeah, why? Can we just talk about that for a second?
I thought we already did.
I mean, not everything is
rather not.
I guess maybe she just
ignore it.
Maybe she just recognizes a kindred spirit or something. Or
I mean, we even glossed over the Dick Leech's drop from Gendry, and the fact that he revealed his parentage too, which probably won't matter, right?
I think he's probably dead after this. That's
which
why.
Begs, which begs the question: why does it matter for Jon?
Because Arya's pregnated with a black
shouldn't.
Baby.
No.
It doesn't. It doesn't unless he wants to claim the throne, which he won't.
I don't think he wants to, and he should have just fucking said it at the end. Anyway, we're not there yet.
It's pointless manufactured conflict.
I think that's conflict for the next episode to like make them make some critical mistake because they haven't hashed out that stupid issue.
Yeah, they look at each other while they're fighting. Like,
yeah. You're gonna be king? Who's gonna be king? Oh no,
Really?
Bran just died.
It's okay, I can die because he'll take over. Yeah.
If Dany dies to make way for the ascension of Jon,
oh my god.
I'm going to be angry.
Neither of them can die next week, right?
There will be pitchforks. There will be torches.
Yeah, so let's just move on to this Dany Jon scene in the crypt. Basically, there is a very monotone conversation between the two of them, saying how Jon says how he's definitely the son of Rhaegar and Lyanna, and how he's definitely the heir to the Iron Throne. And that's pretty much it.
Also, doesn't this bring back the fact that, like, why is Dany so butthurt about everything when she's like, oh yeah, my brother who kidnapped and raped your sister, or
right,
half aunt or whatever. It's like,
it feels like he's trying to share something to redeem her family, trying to say like, actually that's not how it went down, and by the way, I'm related.
And she took it bad.
And she was like, wait, are you trying to take the crown?
No, she has every right to be like really dismayed and upset, because her entire reason for being for the past, like her entire journey, is that she is going to be queen. She's the
yeah,
last
it
of her
makes
line.
sense.
Yeah, it totally makes sense to be like suddenly be like, oh, by the way, that was all wrong. Like, everything you assumed was true about your destiny and your legacy and your inheritance is a lie.
Mhm.
Like, I would be incandescent with like.
Yeah.
But I mean, like for how many years her destiny was to marry her brother, and then it was to be sold off to Drogo. And I mean, I get where she's at now. She's earned what she has, and this is kind of a big bomb. I think it's telling that she's like, well, like your best friend and your brother told you this. Like, let's verify some sources here.
I like
that makes
that a
sense to
lot,
me.
actually. She's like, wait, the crazy kid who doesn't make any sense and your best friend?
Yeah, but I think she knows John's not
Yeah.
trying to like, he's telling her he believes it at the very least.
Yeah, I mean, I am very concerned about Dany dying next episode and having, like, her sacrifice, essentially, for Jon, and that really would really annoy me. But, like, honestly, they can just get married.
Is it more because she wasn't wearing any armor when they kind of both left, like, the parapet to
I thought she was
essentially
wearing...
go ride dragons?
This is just probably a costume malfunction, but I thought that she was wearing a lot of stuff underneath her outfit. So, yeah.
So I don't really. I wish we had have got some introspection on Jon learning this knowledge and maybe him talking about it with Sam about what it might mean, or reflecting upon who Rhaegar and his sister were, because it's not clear what his motivation is in telling Dany that he's the rightful king. Like, does he think he is entitled to the Iron Throne? If so, does he mean to mount a campaign? Because he's the only one who knows about it. Is he going to photocopy the Maester's documents and like send it all over Westeros?
I mean,
no, obviously not. He's not going to do that. No one knows about it.
I think step one is we can't have sex anymore because you're my aunt.
Is it?
Yeah.
Maybe that's it.
Or maybe
Is
they
it-
have to
is
have
it
more
like
sex.
Yeah. Is it like a Stannis scenario where he believes like he doesn't want to be king, but he has to be because it's ordained or it's the law?
That's
like it's
kind
not
of-
clear
It's
what
not
the
clear,
motivation
no.
is.
Yeah,
They don't
that's
want it to be
interesting.
clear.
I don't think it's clear.
Well, I think that is one place where, like, I think John's being a non-entity in the first scene works well, and then the rest of it, like, he's kind of the one casualty of this, like, he's the one person who doesn't really get to talk about his feelings.
Yeah.
And he's the one who has maybe the most important feelings, and I appreciate not being overwhelmed with them, but at the same time, like, it's a pretty big deal, and it needed, I think, a little more oxygen than we got from it.
Yeah. And if there's any episode to reflect on, the sort of competing histories or the histories repressed, it's this episode to like pass through the generational conflict between Starks and Targaryens and who did what and what it all means. It's left completely in the background.
Would have been good to do that.
Right. It did make sense for him to take the day to process the information and figure it out, like how he felt and what he wanted to present. But then the time to reveal it was at the end of the episode. But then they cut it short because they want to keep the tension.
Is this going to come up at the end of the next episode? Like, I feel like this is the thing that they want us to like hang as long as possible.
Probably
not knowing.
episode 4.
No, 6. Like, I mean, they'll save it for the very end if it still matters.
No, I mean,
at
like,
that point.
I feel like it's going to create conflict next week. Like, the two of them are obviously going to come back to this, or maybe it doesn't. But
well, no, because
I think one of them is going to die.
No.
Next week?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
I don't think so about
A
next
lot of
week.
people
I
think- Yeah.
don't think it will create conflict next week because, like, this is the part where Dany takes a step back because she's not the military commander of the battle. Like that, I assume that role goes to Jon, although it hasn't been made clear exactly who's taking it. But yeah, I think
They both seemed on the same
Brienne
page
has
at
the
the
left
end,
flank.
right?
Right, yeah, Brienne has one of the flanks. Right, yeah, they're just going to set this argument aside until after the battle. Like that's all it is. I don't think it's going to be brought up next week at all.
Well, then I won't mind it so badly that they did it this way. Then if that's what happens, like if they deal with it later and it doesn't affect like in the heat of this moment, then that's fine. But if, like I said, if it comes up somehow like during the battle and like because they're at odds, that would.
No.
Well, I think we have to. It's Dany's tough because Dany has zones that are okay to talk about with her and zones that are not okay to talk about with her, and things she absolutely won't accept. But I do think that like it's important to note that she does say like hey, I'm here because Jon influenced me in that conversation to Sansa, and I still think that's true. So I don't think, like, I think this is a big deal for her, a really big deal for her, but I don't think that she's like, the others don't matter anymore, the White Walkers don't matter anymore, you know, because
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely shatters her sense of self because she's labored under this belief for so long, and then to suddenly realize it was based on a lie or it's more complicated than she thought. But you'd think that if both of them do survive, then the easiest solution is just to get married, which is kind of where they're heading anyway. So it doesn't seem like a conflict that, I don't know, unless it's the taboo of marrying your nephew, I guess that can play into it.
I don't think that'll be
they're both
Those are requirements.
I guess, yeah. Maybe it's not a taboo on her side.
Jon. I don't think it'll be I think Emilia Clarke even had like a comment about it, like, oh yeah, she just like skips over the part where they're aunt and nephew. Like, that doesn't matter to her. She's like, she's marrying her brother. Right. Like, this is not.
Yeah, that's a further relative than she's expecting.
Yeah, exactly. But Jon.
And they've already done it. The awkward part's over.
Yeah. I did like the, even though Emilia Clarke and Kit Harington obviously don't have a lot of chemistry, I did kind of like the...
how dare you?
The sense like she was sort of like looking to Jon at various points throughout the episode for a bit of support or a bit of comfort, and he just wasn't offering anything. And she did seem quite hurt by that. And then when she kind of sidles up to him and tries to put her hand around him, I thought that was kind of sweet. Like, I felt for Dany, or I felt a bit of sympathy for her in that moment.
Yeah, I don't know. He should have said something to be like, don't worry about it. Not a big deal. We'll deal with this. I don't care, or whatever it is. Silence was not great.
Yeah.
He could have, and they could have maintained tension even if he had said that, because she doesn't necessarily have to believe him.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I think we all assume that he doesn't care, right? Because he never seems to care about being a leader. He just keeps getting thrown into new leadership positions.
Well, I think we
It's
just
also-
covered that we don't know how, like, what his thought process about this is.
Right.
It's just he's been going through shock, and that's it.
But I think that was his time to be like, well, I don't have a claim to the Iron Throne. I have a claim to the King of the North, and I'll keep that, and you can have the Iron Throne, and that done, right?
Yeah.
Is it more important for their future efforts that Rhaegar didn't kidnap the Stark, and they were, you know what I mean? Like, to say like, hey, look, Targaryen, not all bad.
Yeah, I mean, if he was simply confiding in Dany because he trusts her, and he was receiving this really like life-shattering information, and he wanted to just process it with her, that's fine. But the fact that he says, "I'm the rightful king," is what obviously affects Dany so much, because that's a
she said
challenge
that.
to.
Well, he never said that.
He never said it. She said you would be the. She says you would be the last, male heir. Yeah, you would have a claim to the throne, and he just doesn't say anything the whole time.
Okay, well, maybe it's not. Maybe he isn't trying to claim the throne. Maybe he's just trying to confide in his girlfriend.
I wonder though. Like, I kind of wonder.
Not girlfriend.
You know when you're like playing a game and like you kind of cheat, and like the person you're playing with like loses and you win, and you're kind of like, I'm really happy, but also like, I know I didn't really win. So, like, would that bother Dany? I wonder, like, she has, I think it's really important not to underestimate how fundamental to her identity and her entire global concept of reality it is that she is the last Targaryen in the heir. So I kind of wonder, like, even if Jon is like, no, it's fine, you'll be queen, whatever, like, would some part of her just be like, I don't know, I don't recognize anything anymore. Everything looks different. Everything is different,
I guess, but she's also kind of lying to herself about the fact that she's not necessarily going to be king or queen because she's the last Targaryen. It's because she has the biggest army and dragons. Like, the Targaryens would depose. She's coming here to conquer.
Right, but that's the truth she's never been particularly close with.
Well, I mean, she's been fed lies by, like, Illyrio saying that, yeah, all the small folk are awaiting your brother's return. They want, like, the Targaryens back. And it's just like, I think Jorah says it. It's like, no, they want a long summer and a good harvest, and they want to be left alone when the High Lords play Game of Thrones.
Even if she doesn't believe that, look, I have this claim and I should be the rightful queen and all that, Targaryens are the only ones that can sit the throne. You still have to represent that to the people. Like, that's kind of power, rests that way. Like, you have to push it out there, dragons or not. So I think she understands that, shit changes, but in her head, like,
I don't think she does.
I don't think those are necessarily like distinct ideas to her anyways. I think she views her blood claim and the might of having dragons and all of those things as kind of all lumped together. That's all part of her identity that makes her the queen.
I also think it's just the idea of a Targaryen dynasty combining the kingdoms, which otherwise would be at each other's throats. So any kind of Targaryen dynasty that can be set up is what she wants.
But it seems apparent that, like, the Iron Islands and at least the North will be separate from those 7 kingdoms that she thought she'd rule, right?
Right.
Did Yara ask to be separate?
No, Yara just wants to be the Lord Reaper of Pike if they...
Yeah, I think Theon explicitly says that Yara went to reclaim the islands in Dany's name.
For her. Yeah.
So we missed this very important moment where we get this minor scene where Lyanna, Lady Lyanna of Bear Island tells Jorah that she is fighting in the battle. No question, no ifs, ands, or buts. And then we have Sam giving Jorah the Tarly sword for him to fight with, which makes me think that Jorah's gonna die. So
lots of people are gonna die. I think Brienne, Jaime, Jorah, they all have Valyrian steel.
We're not doing lightning rounds yet. We're just talking about Jorah here.
Oh, well, then I think Jorah's going to die.
Did anyone else get bothered when he called Daenerys Khaleesi? It's like, come on.
No, that's his version of
so season 3.
Right, but it's his version of your grace. Like, that's just what, it denotes this. Yes, like, it's different terminology, but for him, it denotes the same amount of respect.
Yeah. No, I just meant, we all went through the phase of everyone we know calling Daenerys Khaleesi. It was like,
There are babies named
Well, I mean, they are
now.
in the 7 kingdoms now.
Yeah.
So she should be called queen.
Well, remember last season when Jon was like, Dany, and she's like, oh, ew. No, my brother called me that. No one ever called me Dany. Fans.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah, on the boat when he tries to call her Dany, and she's like, no, that doesn't feel right.
He called her Dany in that final, or someone called her Dany this episode.
John
did.
Yeah, it was in that final scene, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, my claim's higher than yours. You'll go by what I call you.
Dany.
Jesus.
Are we done? Is that the last scene?
I mean, the last scene is basically seeing they're all like they're here, and then the White Walkers are here, basically, sort of getting ready to fight Winterfell, and that's the end, pretty much.
So
Cool.
Yeah.
So we'll get another episode next week of them slowly trotting towards the wall.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
except for the Night King, who's in King's Landing, and Cersei's going to shoot him down.
7.5 seasons, and they're finally at Winterfell. First scene of the show.
So
The slowest enemy of all time.
Yeah.
Michal,
That dude who got his head chopped off.
Yeah, I have a list of
Winterfell.
everyone who's at Winterfell, so
30
can I do
minutes.
a quick...
Yes.
Okay.
yes,
Tyrion.
alive.
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 Is that what we're saying? Alive? Okay, I started it.
Live, yeah. Can we do A's and nays?
Jamie.
Dead.
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 Alive.
He lives.
I think he has to live to go kill Cersei. I feel like if this is going to end up back in King's Landing, I feel like that's where
Yeah.
Tyrion's
Yeah.
alive. Katie.
Alive.
Danny.
Alive.
Alive.
Danny's alive.
Same. Agreed. John.
alive.
Alive.
Dead.
Yeah.
Finally.
Alive.
I wish.
Yeah, he's
Secretly
dead, right?
undead and stays undead.
I would give the show a lot of credit if they kill John next week. Sansa.
Dead.
Alive.
Alive.
Lives.
Lives.
Queen.
Queen in the North.
I can't talk about this. Arya.
Alive.
Alright. The next episode's
I'm-
such a short...
I think she's dead.
Dies killing the dragon.
Tough
Could be.
call. Yeah,
Well-
tough call because it depends on what role she takes when she goes down into the
I
crypts.
think if
but
Jamie dies, then
I wanna
Arya
say
lives.
alive.
I think
No
she's going to
contingencies.
use a faceless man tactic to be like a undead person right next to the head guy and kill
That's
him.
not how it works.
They did mention
So if Jamie
Arya's
dies,
list.
Arya lives. Is that like the Harry Potter prophecy or something?
No, I just think that they mentioned
Neither
her list.
while the other survives.
Yeah, you can only kill off so many people here next episode.
I think that they mentioned her list to remind us that she had a list that Cersei was on to die. I think that was it.
I don't even think Cersei's in the next
Good
episode.
point.
Well, not
No, but-
the next
but, yeah,
episode.
but-
I actually skipped her because I don't think she's going to be in it. She's certainly not going to die
No.
next episode.
Well, she and the Night's King probably get married.
Yes. Yes.
Goron.
I'm
Ultimate
here
team.
for that scene. Like, can you just imagine Lena Headey's face, like, and the Night King just staring back at, like, that little thing she does where she closes her mouth slowly, and she's just like,
Finally.
She's like, I wish I had elephants. And he's like, how did I measure up against everyone?
How about dead mammoths?
She's like, she gives the Night King 2.5 lemon cakes.
Davos.
Dead.
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 Oh, I think he's
Sadly dead.
Cut the fat.
I think
Dead.
that.
Hey, Davos is
Damn.
not bad.
Davos has to light the fire, so I'm pretty sure.
Missandei.
Alive.
Yeah.
I hope
I don't know.
alive.
I'm going to say dead because I feel like they're pulling something there.
Mm.
No.
Theon.
Alive.
Dead.
Alive.
Closest to danger, furthest from harm.
Alive.
Sam.
Alive.
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 I think he's
Bran.
gonna die.
Bran is super
Bran is
dead.
dead.
Bran is so dead.
Agreed. Agreed.
Bran who?
Christ.
I love the idea.
Wait, no, Bran is already dead. We have to say
He's
the
not
three-eyed raven.
Bran.
Yeah.
He's
Three-eyed
That's
raven.
right.
Three-eyed raven.
Dead.
He's either dead or White Walker eyes.
I
Yeah.
love the idea of him
And
being
he's
a
not
White
transferring
Walker slave
his
raid.
like persona. He's just gone.
I will say, if they do like a ending of 30 Days of Night thing and have Bran take on like the Josh Hartnett role in that actually would be pretty cool.
Have him stab Theon in the back. And then like open the portcullis to let all the whites in. I would
You're like
5 out of 5.
Prince, I took your castle.
Checkmate.
My castle now, bitch.
Brienne.
Alive.
She's
Dead.
Gonna die.
Varys.
No, she has to
It's
live.
either Jamie or Brienne.
They tied her
Lives,
up.
one of them dies.
They tied
They
their
died.
characters.
Both of them live.
They
I think
died
Jamie dies,
together.
Brienne lives.
One of them has to die in the other's arms.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Brienne's going to die in
Agreed.
Jamie's arms.
Back to back.
Then I guess Jamie
Tormund
dies.
is gonna defend Brienne to the death. He's gonna die, but
Well, we'll get to Tormund. Varys.
Dead.
Dead. Very
Wait,
dead.
Varys is a
I don't
We
character.
wanted to
see
nod,
him
so who knows?
at this point.
I'm about to say, yeah, he's such a
He might be
non-entity,
alive or
he
dead.
could
We won't
live.
know.
I think he'll live. I think he still has something to do in King's Landing.
Sandor Clegane.
Dead.
Alive.
Dead.
He's got to
I
live.
want him to
Ah,
die
yeah. I
quickly.
forgot.
Dead.
Ball.
This is
In
an
a
interesting
blaze
one.
of fire.
Yeah, I think I want him to, self-emulate. Emulate? What's that word?
Self-emulate.
Yeah.
No, it's immolate.
Braun.
Oh,
If
shit.
he becomes, yeah.
Oh, fuck.
Oh.
So
Don't-
if he
that's
tries
tricky.
to kill, like,
He's the one that's going to bring the Night's King down to Cersei.
Alive. Because he'll see what's going on and turn the fuck around.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not sure we'll see him.
He is Essos bound.
My god, what if after the battle, like, Jamie or Tyrion are, like, wounded in the wreckage of the castle and Bronn just saunters up with his crossbow?
Shut the fuck up.
And Boromir's their ass, that'd be the fucking worst.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, gonna get my castle now.
Yeah.
Tormund.
Dead.
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 Yeah. Goodbye, Tormund.
He's-
yeah.
Yeah, I think this is
Gendry.
the end of the...
Super
Dead.
dead.
Oh,
I
super
don't,
dead.
I don't want him to die, but
He already
He
passed
got
the
his
scene
last
on to
fucking-
Arya's
Gendry slept with death, so he's dead.
Yeah.
Grey Worm.
he slept with no one this episode.
Dead.
I'm gonna say alive on Grey Worm.
Oh,
No, he's
interesting.
dead.
I think he's dead.
Dead on Grey Worm.
He's dead defending Missandei.
Jorah Mormont,
Dead.
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 hopefully.
Wow.
Hey,
Wow.
I actually like. I mean, obviously they softened him up for the show, but I really enjoyed his character this episode.
I hate him. Gilly.
Alive.
Oh.
I hope
Alive.
she lives, but
Night
I
Queen.
think she's gonna.
Yeah,
You leave
they-
that baby alone.
They can't do what they
Sam
did to
or
Lori.
Gilly
Like,
have to survive, but both can't.
Nah,
She's-
I think they both.
I feel like they might kill the baby and leave Gilly.
that's
Oh,
that's such
I
a
mean,
like Lori
Sam
like
is a
baby
incest monster, so
Lilith thing though. I don't know.
Yeah, labor laws and child actors.
Melisandre, if she shows up.
he already said she had to die in Westeros. So
Yeah.
I don't think she's
Right,
gonna
but
be
we
in this
haven't-
episode.
But
I don't
we
think
haven't
she'll
seen
be
a
here.
hint of her yet.
I sincerely hope someone did mention this earlier that she shows up like Gandalf, as the sun is coming, but then she turns to the left, and who is sitting next to her but Syrio Farrell?
Oh my god.
To the battle, my lady.
you see, I just assumed.
What
she'd
do we
show
say
up.
to death?
What? Syrio?
Because I mean, I think Syrio Farrell is never coming back in the books. Who knows? In the show, he's unaccounted for. He could still be out there.
No, kidding.
Sure.
Well, we had
Yes,
Jaken come
Katie.
back, so he did come back, right? Because they're
Yeah.
the same.
And well, we've had Benjen, we've had
He's in Marine.
Gendry.
Eric Dondarrion.
Dead.
Dead.
Dead,
Dead.
finally.
Goodbye.
The Hound might just throw him off the wall anyway.
Yeah, right.
I call
Shut
it.
up.
He dies first. He dies
Yeah.
in the first charge.
I could see him being an early casualty.
No,
Dollar
because
said.
he's got his flaming sword. He's going to be all right.
I think
Dollar
he's gonna.
said,
I think he's gonna
got-
give his life for somebody else.
No, Ed.
I would say Dollar says probably dead.
Dollar said.
I think
Most likely
He's-
for Sam, and Sam's
No more
gonna die.
Dolores.
Lord Commander Ed.
I think he stays alive just for the sake of irony.
That would be
Sit
that would
the
be
Iron
fun.
Throne.
I'd appreciate that.
Oh, they might be
It's
the
the sort
bloody
of thing
king.
David and Dan like.
Yeah.
Pod.
Dead.
Alive.
Dead.
Dead, I think.
He shows the whites. Oh, never mind.
He didn't
He's
say.
alive.
He didn't say a full sentence. Like
He
Except
sang a
he-
whole song.
he
he
sang
sang
the
a
whole
whole song, but he did not have any other lines.
He spoke with his eyes to Brienne.
Pod has unfinished
And
business
with his eyes to
with Braun.
hearing when he was getting his
Oh
wine
yeah,
back.
that's true. Maybe he will be alive.
Well, and if Gendry dies, Pod lives, since they had to shave Gendry's head and grow Pod's hair out to unconfuse people.
Jan Royce. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Deanna Mormont.
He will be
Oh.
interrupted from dying from a major character, so he'll have to leave like the
He is
battle.
so annoying.
Ooh,
So-
I think I have to go to the bathroom, guys. Let me just back out of this one.
Liana.
Dead.
Alive.
I think
my
alive.
God, I hope my
They made the
girl-
point of her being in the quote dangerous place that is less dangerous than the crypts. So I think she'll probably be alive. Alice Karstark, no idea. Whatever.
Oh, she
Um,
was the random other girl that my wife was like, "Who the fuck is that chick?" I was like, "That must be Alice Karstark." Because I
Right,
don't.
yeah, they're just using her name because, she's a named character in the books. But it's really just, a random Northern Lord. Not that important.
And the other Umber got fucking emulated.
Yeah.
Did the cast emulate
Was it like Super Nintendo or
Project 64?
Yeah.
Did the Carstocks get away? Are they at Winterfell, or did they go back to their castle?
No, I
No,
think
they're-
most of them died in the Battle of the Bastards.
They showed up last episode.
No, she was there.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
right.
Tyrion went,
Yeah.
Tyrion
But
went
the
on
men-
about her banners.
Who is it that was holding out? Was it the Karstarks or was
The
it
Glovers.
the
Glovers.
The Glovers, yeah. They're probably
Yeah.
dead already, right?
Those
Yeah.
motherfuckers.
No,
Yeah.
because they're in the west. Like, they're not in the direct path.
But they said everybody north of them is dead.
Right, but the Glovers are due west. They're not north. Like, if anything,
I don't think the show gives a fuck about how west they are.
Yeah, they made a point to
just said
say
everyone
who's
who's not
come to
here is
Winterfell.
dead. So I don't know.
You know,
they're-
a fair point that they don't give a fuck about geography. That's sure, but still.
I mean, they made a point to say everyone who's not in Winterfell is dead in the north, or
Right,
made it
but
sound like that.
That
so.
means they did like a full circle. Like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
remember
that
you
doesn't
can,
make sense.
can't you see Winterfell from like that hill in the Trident or something that Littlefinger and Sansa were standing on at one point?
Oh yeah,
I
you're
can see
right.
Winterfell from
Right
my
about
house.
that, Dom.
Jesus Christ.
So glad we went back there. Katie's favorite character, Maester Walken.
Can't believe he appeared in this episode.
Oh, yeah.
Who cares, man? Just kill him if necessary.
Your Grace, we need more cowbell.
He dies in a bucket of cream.
let me just interrupt this. Fuck! I told you.
And one more, the Night King.
Oh,
He's not even alive right now.
yeah. That's what I was
Once
saying.
Bran
There's, like,
dies.
alive.
Okay,
I'm
but
about to
does
say
he
there's-
stay as a player
I
in
think
the
he probably
game?
lives,
Yes.
but my unconventional theory is that he dies.
Yeah, I'm about to say there is like the 1% chance that like
Is he
they
living?
win.
Or can he die?
He's living. I think the White Walkers are living. The Whites are undead.
Are zombies living?
Yeah,
alive?
they're a different. They're living in their own way. It's a different type of immortal
I think
species.
if he dies, though, they're still not defeated, so I don't know if it matters. But
Well, yeah, it depends if they're doing like full vampire rules or not.
yeah, I don't think that the threat is ended next week.
Right? Yeah, no, I agree with that. Which is why I assume he would still be alive.
I'm changing my vote on Dany. I think she dies now.
Next week, wow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well, you're right. I guess
Duncan, is that because you're usually like 9,000 time zones ahead, so you just know?
Yeah. Well, not now. I'm in America, but we'll see. I might get the inside scoop when I get back.
All right, and on that note, I think I'm going to close out the podcast unless anybody else has any last bleeding thoughts before I...
Why? We could go 3 hours.
no, I'm done.
Just
Poor
like
Casey.
Gendry and Arya.
I don't think Gendry went 3 hours.
Yeah.
Being
that did-
generous.
I think
Not from the
I think
look on
Gendry
her.
went
No.
like under 3 minutes.
3 minutes?
Yeah, from her face, it was like he pumped twice and it was done.
Yeah.
He did a one
Yeah.
pump Tyrion.
He is Robert Baratheon's son. That's all I'm going to say.
All right, well, thanks for if you listen to the whole thing, thanks for listening to the whole thing.
Yeah, well done.
You can find Vassals of Kingsgrave on all the social medias, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram occasionally. And, you know, we totally are on all the dating sites as well if you want to find us there. We will also be at Ice and Fire Con this weekend. So if you're listening to this and you're out there, come find me and say hi and then say that you're not stalking me because I'll be a little concerned. And
Find
then,
me a beer.
yes, that'll do. And you can also join us on the forums if you would like to comment or let us know how you felt this podcast went. We're on the Podcast of Ice and Fire forums, and you can Google that because I don't feel like saying the whole URL. Thanks, guys. Bye.
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 Thanks, Casey.
And vote on who you think's going to die.
Shut up.
No, she passed over this one. All right.
All right, bye, guys.
All right.
Nice.
Deuces, everyone.
I'm going. Bye.
Yep. Get out
See ya.
while you can.
Hello.
Well, this is much better.
I just told you guys I can't podcast tonight.
Oh my
Why are you
God,
calling me
shut
again?
up.
I just saw
Sorry,
Greg.
Greg.
I just saw Greg.
Sorry, Greg.
Hey, Greg.
It was my fault, Greg.
No problem.
Oh my God, is Valkyrist on this?
Yes.
All right.
I am
take it
here.
easy. Bye.
Bye.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? See ya. Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear
coming
you.
through okay?
All right.
Hello and welcome to Mean Girls Cast.
Yes.
This is where we make the burn book.
Get in
Yes.
bitches, we're
No.
going reviewing.
All right.
Didn't Bina have notes or something?
I do have notes,
Oh.
but I have them on my computer because there was that one DragonCast I was on where one of the Pauls deleted everybody's notes that one time.
so now you hide your notes.
Well, I just keep them on my computer like a normal person. All right.
You didn't happen to go to any weddings in Tennessee last weekend, did you?
No, I haven't been to Tennessee.
Okay.
Why?
Okay.
Was there
Well,
a red
no.
wedding scenario?
What did you
No,
do? You know
what-
one other Australian that was at a wedding? in
Tennessee State News said there's an Australian in the state.
Okay, listen.
Well, there can only be one at any given time, so he might have
No. Like
be deported.
one of my friends, she married a guy from Australia, and there were like 50 people from Australia there. And I was like, well, it's just Duncan's on a walkabout. There can only be like 100 Australian people in the U.S. at once, so it's a 1 in 2 chance, right?
It is 1 in 2, yeah. Those
There's
exact
really
odds.
only about 200 people in Australia, period. Everyone else is a kangaroo or a tarantula.
All right. All right. So, since there's 8 of us, I'm gonna give my, little speech as host. Please do not try to interrupt anybody, or if you do, just figure it out.
What?
Hey,
There's
hold on
9 of
a
us.
second. What are we doing?
Oh my God, that is such a dad joke, you 3.
Kick him off.
Damn it!
I'm so
I like
I'm so proud I
I
resisted.
do.
All right.
Wait, does
I mean,
Jarasha know that Danny's cheating on her with John?
Excuse me?
Dario's trying to make it over in time for the battle, but I don't think he'll
Oh,
get it.
fuck, Dario!
He's got
He's
kids.
in-
Robo.
Like, can you even imagine what's happening in Marine with him in
He's
charge
gonna.
right
Oh my
now?
god.
He's still
The
trying to find
paperwork.
boats. All the
Yeah.
boats have been used. There's no
He-
boats in the world.
He's going to be like Gandalf riding over the hill at dawn.
No, that's going to be Melisandre.
Red Rollor, yeah.
Oh yeah. Dude, seriously, Dario, it's got to be like the Uncle Buck of Kings of Marine or whatever he is.
Just
No.
toast. I could barely get through the door.
Look, if Dario hasn't left with like a shit ton of gold and like bought himself like a palace in the middle of nowhere already, I'd be very surprised.
All right.
Does anyone think they don't actually write Davos's lines anymore? Like they just tell Liam Cunningham to go, and he just he's just become such a grandpa. He's like,
Speaking of writing, I will say this episode was written by Brian Cogman,
Cogman,
so
yeah.
most of it was really good. There are a few bits, and I think it's probably with the editing and everything else where the dialogue wasn't great and things were rushed. But I mean, I think the writing was pretty good in this episode. All the rest of the episodes are written by David and Dan, and I'm out.
Well, I mean, you can tell because, like, obviously all of us book fans were like, oh my god, Jenny of Oldstones, whoa, oh my goodness. And then Benioff in the
Giants
behind the scene episode thing is like, yeah, I think this song might be from the book. I don't know.
Yeah.
I might have written some lyrics.
Oh, did he
I think,
really?
like, I think
Yeah.
the
fuck
first
yourself,
line is in the
man.
book somewhere, I think.
y'all
And
know
we,
she can't. Like,
yeah.
Duncan the Small doesn't exist in the show because they needlessly made Aegon V Aerys' father. They got rid of Jaehaerys too, so like they get rid of Duncan. Sorry to nerd it up, but
No,
I'm like,
I don't want to think
like
about
you
this.
needlessly retcon this character, and now you bring his wife's song back. I'm so mad.
Where's
Um,
Jaehaerys? Where does he fall in the timeline?
I don't
Bring
think Jaehaerys is there
Who?
anymore.
There
Justice
is
for
no
Jaehaerys too.
Hashtag
thought you were
Jaehaerys
asking about
too.
Ed Sheeran.
Oh my
But
God.
literally, this is like one line they mention Aegon V in the show, and because they don't want to say grandfather, they call him the Aerys' father. Like, why? It
doesn't.
Oh, right. Yeah.
pointless switching. Like, there was
Because
no.
we're all idiots and we can't, figure it out if it was more difficult.
Well, some of us
how
are
that
type
went in the
A.
editing room.
All right.